become champions.
Hello and welcome to episode 134 of the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. Join us tonight. We'll have Terence coming on later on. Bobby from the live chat will come on the show as well tonight. You can click on all the links to the podcast in the description below, including our Rumours page, the podcast www.celticrumours.co.uk. If you haven't hit the like, please do so. Hit the notifications and subscribe to the show if you like what we're doing. On tonight's show, we'll have a match reaction to Celtic's 3-1 victory over Aberdeen at Pittodrie. 3 weeks to go till transfer deadline day. Where do you think we need to improve and which positions are urgently needed? Look ahead to the Scottish Cup second round against Kilmarnock at Roby Park next Sunday. And of course, anything you guys in the live chat want discussed, please let us know. Firstly though, I'll hand off to Mark for a few shout outs.
Thanks very much, Paul. See, just when you're talking about that, Paul, I was reading a thing earlier on the day, and it's meant to be, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but see, like on the YouTube banner at the top of the page, there's wee links to the Twitter and the forum, and like putting links in the description box and stuff like that. YouTube's meant to be stopping that being allowed. So like putting any links to external sites in that out. They're meant to be stopping all that, but I can't see how people will be very happy about that, but it's meant to be happening over the next couple of weeks, so we'll need to see how that goes, you know what I mean?
Could be over
kind of advertising. I suppose it's your free advertising, isn't it? Really?
And you say if another podcast was sponsored by the show, we say like Boohoo Man or something like that, Mac, they'll have their description down.
Aye.
So you said that they can click on to Boohoo Man from their YouTube site, get me?
Aye. I don't know how that's going to work for sure. Them that do that, they kind of buy me a coffee stuff and things like that. I mean, they'll not be able to put all that kind of thing up. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'll do a few shout outs to some of the lads for the forum. Richie, David, Welshie, Mikey. I don't think Mikey's busy this weekend. I don't even think he'll be listening in. A Glasgow Green, wee John United Island. Some of the lads on the live chat, Big Jabber, moaning again. No, I mean, that's all he does is moan. Pure depressing big get he's getting, so he is. Bobby, Bobby was there, he's away again. Brian, evening, Brian. Grot Bags, nice to see you again 5 minutes ago. That's it, bud. Just said everything about the links and that, just got on with it.
Right, before we...
Up there, Bobby, there.
There's something I have
there,
to get off my...
I don't know what happened there, but I'm here. I'm here.
Right, no bother, Bobby. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Before we start the show, there's something I need to get off the chest that I've been away for the past 2 weeks and I come back and I'm catching up with the Rumours site, catching up with last week's live chat. I had to look through that. And suddenly David Turnbull has turned into Lionel fucking Messi. My Jesus Christ.
Aye. Come on, but Pabs, to be fair to him, he played a good game last week. Aye, he wasn't at the races the day and that, but...
Did I not prove my point, Mark?
But that's what everybody says the same with him.
Consistency. Where was he today?
No, aye.
It's fine playing against Ross County, get 2 goals and things. But these are the games you want Turnbull to turn up in, Bobby. Wouldn't you? You know, turn up in these games, show the consistency, show that.
I know, but the thing is, I'm not a lover or a hater of him, really, but I thought he was atrocious today. He was the first half. I'd probably say Callum McGregor was up there with him. The first half they were horrendous for me, and just way too easily bypassed. Do you know what I mean? Nah, he's not for me. He's not for me. But you've seen the difference when Hatate came out for his wee cameo.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bobby. It's not that I dislike him. I wouldn't say I totally like him, but Roger, let's be fair. After his performance last week, it wouldn't have been fair to have been dropped today.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, everybody in their dug knows Hatate's a better player than Turnbull. Right? I don't know whether Rodgers is just trying to give him a bit of a chance to prove it, that he can make a step up in that. But again, the day he was terrible. But Paul, I don't know anybody that wouldn't disagree with you that one of the biggest problems with Turnbull is his consistency. It's always been that. Yeah. If you've not got speed, you can play the. Do you know what I mean?
The problem that you've got with a player like Lambert. But you've got if you play probably in the UK, it's too fast paced to have that time on the ball. Do you know what I mean? If he was playing in, I don't know, a European league, but it was a bit slower, he would maybe show up better. But nah, he's
by
not.
By the time Turnbull gets the ball, he's about 2-3 touches before he completes the final pass, and Hatate or Riley would have 2 moves ahead of him already done. Do you get me?
Even Odin Home looks as if he gets the ball and he turns and he's away. Do you know what I mean? He takes the ball in and he's already turned. Do you know what I mean? Turnbull gets it, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3, then he turns round, and a lot of time he gets caught up with that. But no, he's really not for me. But
as we kept saying in the live chat today during the game, it's. I think
Slow and Turnbull, no, Mark, it's not.
There need debate between Hatate and Turnbull. It's a debate between Turnbull and Home, and again what the wee guy Home done today. Again, you've got to say he deserves his chance next week rather than Turnbull. Do you really do? You've got to. You can only. I mean, we keep saying that you're only as good as your last game. I keep saying at Celtic, you're only as good as your last touch of the ball, but that's a bit tongue in cheek. Do you know what I mean? But Turnbull had a stinker today. Hatate, maybe a cup game. It's up at Kilmarnock to enter on that pitch. He maybe no risk Hatate next week. For me, get home. Home's got to start next week. I would probably. I mean, if the injury's no concern whatsoever, I'd go with Hatate. But if there's any kind of it was a bit touch and go, I wouldn't even risk him up at Kilmarnock next week and just play at home for the beginning.
Like I was looking at some stats today between Turnbull and Hatate, and the reason I think O'Reilly was saying these things last week about Turnbull starting and stuff like that was Hatate's press is actually non-existent. Hatate rarely presses the ball, but when you see that today from Turnbull, he can't even get up the pitch to press the ball. Do you know what I mean? You know? I don't know, man. If you want to move forward, Mark, are you comfortable? If Hatate goes, would you be comfortable with Turnbull as your number 1 midfielder there?
No, definitely no. I mean, as things stand now, our best midfield is McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly. And then again, just after the day's performances, you've got to see, even just what we've seen for wee Home for came in and the day's performance, you've got to put Home he's got to be our main kind of backup player in there, I reckon.
Do you not think he looks quite? Do you not think he actually looks as if he's got a bit of size and strength to him and all though, Home? He doesn't look all that wee to me. Like he's I'm not saying he's muscular or he's really tall, but he's got that kind of athletic physique. Do you know what I mean? And he gets mucked in as well.
A bit of bite to him that the team is actually needing, Bobby, isn't this?
He gets kind of stuck in, I know. He does get stuck in.
Exactly what you'd expect. Feel like a Scandinavian type of player, isn't it? He's got that kind of bit of steel about him and stuff like that.
That is
right. So Celtic were back in action for the second game against Aberdeen at Pittardry. Goals from Abada, Kyogo, O'Reilly secured the 3 points there. It was a Norby game. Celtic not looking impressive today, but I have to agree what Joe Hart said. It's early days. We're under a new manager. we played a. He said we played a unique style, Bobby, for the last 2 years. A new managers come in, we're adjusting to his ways. Criticism for me really is of the team is a bit harsh. I think, after Brendan Rodgers came in, he's kind of brought in none of his own players yet. Well, we could say the Polish lad Nowacki could have been his player, but I think the Celtic fans might need to relax a bit.
Aye, I agree with that, Paul. I mean, even on the live chat today, it was just right. I mean, again, it's just like every player wants to have a bad touch. It's that same garbage. Do you know what I mean? It's all of a sudden. Do you notice that, Bobby? You've probably heard me going on about it for a couple of years, but now you see it yourself, isn't it?
To be honest with you, I'll always be there because I like just the idea of it, and most of the guys that are on it talk sense and stuff, but sometimes it's bloody overkill, and you're like,
aye,
it's off-putting. Do you know what I mean? You think,
aye,
yeah, man. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, we were winning 2-1. Aye, Aberdeen could have equalised, but we could have scored. Do you know what I mean? But you can't sit there and just be pure negative and moaning about everything just in the off chance that Aberdeen's going to get an equaliser.
I was guilty at myself the day regarding Taylor, but Taylor had the worst game.
Aye.
It was shocking today.
Well, I said,
evening, hold on, Paul. Evening, Stephen. Thanks very much for coming in, mate. Thanks for your comment as well. Glad you enjoy it.
The game last week, over in Poland, Bobby, and I said it to you, Mark, when we were saying about players who could actually struggle under Brendan Rodgers, and he was one player that we actually named out, and I actually think he is struggling because I think his defending again is actually being found out, because I think he's getting turned inside very, very easily. Like it's easy to turn Taylor. I think if Barnaby was if he didn't turn up late last week, I actually think Brendan Rodgers would have went with him.
But I think that was a bit of blown out proportions and all right enough, Paul, that carry on with wee Burnaby. I mean, he slept in, he got a slap in the wrist out it, probably get sent to train with the kids for a day. Do you know what I mean? And they've got Cal McGregor would have fined him £500 or whatever it is for turning up late, and that would be forgot about.
And Rodgers made a joke at the day.
I mean, come on, he slept in. It's not as if he's. Do you know what I mean? He's only a young boy. He's never slept in for their work.
That's like I think, Mark, that he could have actually started the first game of the season kind of only for that. I say, because
when Rodgers came in, Paul, we said that we thought that maybe Burnaby would be more suited to Rodgers' style of play, playing like the out and out kind of overlapping fullback role, and that which Taylor for the last few years he's not been doing it, and is he just struggling to find his feet? And do you know what I mean in this kind of new system?
Well,
I mean, you know what, just kind of write him off. Do you know what I mean?
No, because we've seen him adjust, Mark, to Ange's system. Do you know what I mean? So, like, we're not going to write him off, but it's really an area when we seen on the Neil Lennon that was targeted on the left hand side, and when Ange first came in, the left hand side, and I think it's actually at that moment it's actually one of us weakest sides. In the back line, the left-hand side.
Aye.
They get ripped to shreds last week. He get ripped to shreds last week, caused the goal, and they get that boy that was in the right wing today. Every time he took him on, he would buy him. Do you know what I mean? And it was every time. There was 3 or 4 times. It just we thing me away, and we had him. Taylor was nowhere. Do you know what I mean? And if that's a top European winger in the Champions League or the Europa League, God knows what happens then. Do you know what I mean? It's scary.
I mean, we've still got a month. Well, I'm not meaning, but I know there's only a few weeks left in the transfer window. But I mean, it's when the 19th or something like that. 19th of September, 20th of September is the first Champions League game.
I think it might be the 24th and the 25th this time round for whatever. That seems to stick in my head that it's the 24th or the 25th. But I don't know. Don't ask me why.
We've got that's. I mean, that's what. Nearly 6 weeks.
It's a good
6-7 weeks. I know what I mean. By the time we win these shot, we've got another 4 or 5 weeks to get. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's anything to start really panicking about. We're not playing great, but there was times under Ange that we didn't play great as well. But the thing is, the 2 games, we've won the 2 games. We're sitting top of the league. But, right, the performances isn't great, but we're just sitting nitpicking over the games. You know what I mean? We should be quite. There's things that need to be addressed, things that need to be fixed. Again, the goalkeeper for me that needs to be sorted out as soon as possible. But we're hoping that that's going to be sorted out by the time the window shuts. But I'm not in any kind of panicking. People are. Do you know what I mean? Again, Jabber's mentioned there in the live chat, like what you read on that Twitter and on the forum and things like that. Some of these are just, I can't even be bothered answering them. Some of the guys on the forum anymore.
I know, it's some belters, isn't it? I don't even. That's something. Again, it's something I maybe go on and I go on and off here or there. But it's another one where, and it's the same. It's the same people without mentioning any names.
Just putting the same stuff up there again.
Jeez,
and no matter how many times you try to, no matter how many times I've tried to talk, like to explain things from a different point of view, and other people have done it, they're just not for listening. They're just not for listening. So there's not even any point in trying to tell them the other side of the coin and things like that.
I seen something earlier on, and it was like, what was it? It was on, I can't remember what it was on. It was on another Celtic thing anyway. Nothing related to these ones, but somebody says, Taylor Ralston had a shocker. He had a shocker. This guy had a shocker, and it was like 4 or 5 names. And I thought, every one of the names that you just mentioned there actually didn't have a shocker today. Ralston didn't have a shocker today.
I thought Ralston was one of our best players.
So did I.
It was a wee bit ropey at the start, but it was again when it wasn't causing any kind of problems.
No.
And as we keep saying, we've got to remember, Ralston's only our backup right back.
I should look at that tackle he made there when it was 2-1. The team was clean on. You know what I mean? That was as good as 3 points there, that tackle.
He throws his body on the line for you as well, which is always needed in some of these tricky away games in Scotland. You're going to need he's committed enough, do you know what I mean? Which
again, people just writing him off, he's never going to be good enough. But what kind of lively player do they think that Celtic's going to get that's going to come in and sit there and be happy to be the understudy to Johnson?
So, no, the way they look at it, Mark, is they and their weird thinking, it's like, but we should have better than Johnson and we should have better. So it's like, how can you?
I say it all the time. The only player at Celtic Park that I don't think we could improve on, no matter how much money we spent, would be McGregor. See, every other player at Celtic Park, if we spent enough money or had enough money, we could improve on that. Without a doubt, but we've not got the kind of money, so we need to go for and get players like Johnson and accept that we've going to have guys like Ralston as our backup. That I've said it all along, even when we thought he was going to be leaving before Ange came in, I had no problem with Ralston being our backup right back.
No, I'm the same.
I really had and it's just one of the things. We're no Barcelona or fucking Bayern Munich or that can go out and spend 12, 15, 30 million pound on a squad player, things like that. There's Terence here. Evening, Terence.
Evening, James. How are we going?
All right, mate. How are you doing?
Good. No, good.
Just while Terence is on, I know all the lads knowing that he's had a bit of a tough time the last few months, been no well and stuff like that, but he's a wee happy leprechaun, isn't he? He's a wee back to work tomorrow, Terence.
I am indeed, yeah. Yeah, it was six months yesterday. That's how long.
Is that 6 months, Ter?
Yeah, 6 months yesterday it happened, yeah. On Saturday, I should say, yeah. Quick 6 months. Yeah, I know.
It was that long, but that's you back. That's you. You'll be a bit more settled in your life, getting back into the system of working and that, isn't it? Yeah, back to normal. Thank God. Aye, and the other options weren't very good, were they? To be honest, you know what I mean?
No, they weren't. No, without a doubt, no, they were not, Mark.
Evening, Mikey. Nice to see you, mate. You nice to see you again, pal.
Just Stevens' comment there. Do you think Brendan might try and bring Kieran Tierney back home? He's not getting a game at Arsenal. You know it's going to be a loan deal. Is that something you want, or?
I don't. I've been quite vocal about that. No. If Tierney's coming back, see if he's coming back on loan. Any loan, unless it's Mbappe to get out his last year at PSG or something like that, but any loan that Celtic's going to have to Celtic use, for me, it's got to have the option to buy at the end of it. And I don't think the financial situation, I don't think we could ever do that for keep Arsenal that happy unless KT just pushed and says, no, I want to join Celtic. But, I mean, what would Celtic gain? What would Celtic gain out of taking him back for a year? I mean, he plays as a like maybe as a kind of left central back now, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So, but put Tierney and Carter Vickers together. The boy we've just bought from Poland's gone. He's getting blew out for a year just because KT can't get a game at Arsenal. No for me.
Terence, yourself?
No, I'd be the same, Paul. I wouldn't be interested in having Tierney back. No disrespect meant to him. He was great when he was at Celtic, but Celtic need to be concentrating on getting guys like, for argument's sake, like Alistair Johnson or Carter Vickers, that if they're in there, they're there, or like Mark said with the Carter Vickers and Jota example, that if they're coming for on loan, that there's already a deal agreed in place, that Celtic have first option and it's going to be 6 million or 7 million or 10 million or whatever the figure is. If Celtic want to buy him at the end of that's it. But the notion of Kieran Tierney coming for 12 months for the year, like how does that affect Greg Taylor? Even though Greg Taylor for the first time in a long time had a shocker today, but how does that affect Greg Taylor? How does that affect that? You know, how does that affect him? Does he all of a sudden 6 months into going, well, I'm not getting game time here, maybe I'd be better off going somewhere else and trying to get a game in another club, and then all of a sudden Tierney goes back and you're looking for another left back because the guy hasn't played football for 12 months. I would only look at it, Paul, to say that if they were looking at another left back, he has to be permanent and it has to be better than what's already there.
And are we taking back the same Kieran Tierney, Bobby, as what we had? Like we've seen him over the last couple of seasons now since he left Celtic. He's been kind of very injury prone as well. You know, he's been in and out of that Arsenal team with injuries as well. You know,
you wouldn't be getting the same player back. You could argue that you're getting a better player back, but what Mark was saying there is, like, he usually plays the left side of a three at the back, a left centre back. So he's going to come back to us and we're going to say, oh, but we want you to be left back again. He might not even be up to that now. You know what I mean?
But see that thing with injuries as well, because I actually went and looked it up when we were talking about it on the forum a couple of weeks back, and because Tierney himself came out and said that he was available for every game or something like that at Arsenal last season. And see, when you look up his record, and that I think it was at the beginning of the season he missed some games. But that show in the Premier League, when the FA Cup and all that kicked off, I'm sure that he missed something like 2 games all season just through injury. It was just that he was on the bench or coming off the bench or stuff like that. So there was the kind of rumours about his problems with his fitness and injuries and that when he was at Celtic. And that was one of the reasons that Celtic's maybe meant to have rubber stamped the move for him. But and I've seen people saying as well that that's one of the reasons Newcastle want to take a plunge on him. They've got questions about his kind of his physical condition and stuff like that. Right. And obviously they can't put him through a medical without having the permission of Arsenal to do such and things like that. But I agree with what Bobby says. He's not the KT that left Celtic a few years back, but he's an older player, and he'll probably be technically, but the way he reads the game and that, he'll have learned a lot for playing for Arsenal, playing in that league and stuff like that. But I don't. He's no good. I don't think he's got the physical capabilities to come back and be that kind of what I was saying about Bernabei there, being that kind of overlapping attacking fullback. I just don't see KT being fit enough to do that for any team.
No.
Going back to the game, what have you noticed? Like I know it's kind of early days now, but what have you noticed about the way Brendan Rodgers plays this Celtic team compared to the way Ange had us playing? I know like there was fast tempos in Ange and stuff like that, but do we look more solid, or?
I think we look a bit disjointed. I don't. It's just. I mean, it's again the way Ange played the game, and we've said a new manager's coming in, the style and that was going to change. But I don't think we're actually seeing what Rodgers is style is yet. I mean, I even noticed today the kind of, well, one of the big things I noticed as well was Hart. I used to complain about this with Hart, that he didn't come out and command the boxes as much. But it seems to be doing that. Aye.
You've done it today.
Aye, plus the clearing it, no playing the ball for the back and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that anymore after he got clobbered against Stephen Welch. So Hart's going to fucking stay in his line out for the season. That's what we won't see that happening anymore. No, that's what we want.
But one of the things that I noticed even last week as well, Ross County, was see when the boys going out for throw-ins and stuff like that, it's not as quick to get it back into play.
Mm-hmm.
Evening, Rebel 86, nice to see you again, mate. Thanks for coming in.
What about this new rule, Terence? We kind of see Kyogo playing, kind of coming in more kind of central into the field to receive the ball and kind of lay it off to other players and stuff like that. And are we going to see different Kyogo under Rodgers, do you think? Or
well, he might be moving more, Paul, in the sense of coming in to get a bit more ball, because in fairness he's good at it. It could be a factor as well, Paul, for me, that there's at the start today again, there's a huge imbalance in the midfield for me when you're playing Turnbull, McGregor and O'Reilly. They're all, you know, Turnbull had a very poor game, obviously he was taken off, but it's a completely different game when you've got a Hatat in there. And to be honest, it was even a different game when the young Norwegian guy came in there. He's much better than Turnbull. He could, like, his first touch is always into space. He's always getting himself into space, and he looks very tidy on the ball. Whereas that could be a reason, Paul. They want Kyogo to drop back a bit more and to link with the wide man, and then he's so quick and elusive, rather than him just staying up and allowing the centre back to go, right, I'm going to just stay stuck to him all day. And it's probably easier to mark him than if Kyogo is kind of drifting into the number 10 role or towards the midfield area and then swinging back in again. Might be harder to pick him up. Whether that's something that Rodgers is working on, I don't know. But at the minute, the biggest thing that worried me today, if I'm to be honest with you, Paul, is Rodgers, if you looked at the team, has gone back to a lot of the older not the older generation, but the guys that have been there before. Obviously, like, I mean, if you looked at the finishing, the back four, the finishing, it was Ralston, Welch, Rocky and Taylor. And then he's gone back to Turnbull as well. Now, I know Turnbull has played well up to today, but you'd never like in bringing on James Forrest again. Do you know, there must be a couple of guys there that are really, really gone way down in the pecking order. If, with the greatest respect, if James Forrest is your first sub and you're going to stick Maeda through the middle, and like the one that he was through in goal, Maeda, he must have had 5 miscontrolled touches, and if he'd gone any further, he'd have gone out the side gate. Like, he was going so far left. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that worried me today, to be honest, is what was coming on and what was on it. And I know Welsh did play decent when he came on, but would you be happy going into a European match with Welsh and your man Rocky as the 2 centre backs? I'd be worried.
I don't think that's going to happen, Ter.
But they've been very slow though, Mark. I mean, the new Starfield was going. We all knew Starfield was going a month ago. Yet the Starfield deal can be done and dusted. And the Swedish lad, apparently he's played today for his club, and he's still not here. Like, I mean, if Carter Vickers has a serious knock and he's out for 2 or 3 weeks, that backline there is conceivably the backline that could be going into the derby.
But what do you expect Celtic today? Turn around and say to the boy, right, you signed for this, or we're not what I signed you, we'll move down to the next guy on the list.
No, not that, Mark. But I'd rather them try and get the deal done. The deal done quicker. I don't know what the obviously issues with it, but like that lad has been in the discussed with it there for a while.
But it was only the other day the sporting director came out and said that there's interest, but we've not actually received any concrete offer until we do. There's basically nothing else. Basically nothing we can do about it.
Oh well, that's what I'm trying to say, Mark. Celtic should be much more proactive than that. We all know Carl Starfelt was going. That deal was done quite quickly with Celta Vigo. Why can't Celtic do it the other way for themselves? If they need a centre back in, why can't they work to the same speed that Carl Starfelt leaving to Celta Vigo was done? Why can't it be in roles reversed that Celtic are going to that club and going, he's our guy. That's the guy we want.
Oh,
It's 3 million or 3.5 million to get him in the door.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I know what you mean, but
what I heard on this fella Lagerby was that it was actually
Starfelt's agent. Aye, it's the same.
and then
the same
Celtic
agent.
went over. Then Celtic went over to watch him, and that's kind of why he was so late. Like they had targets, Terence, and then when this fella was recommended to him, they halted on the other targets to have a look at this Swedish lad. So that was kind of the kind of delay there before they kind of made a decision on their things. They wanted to have a look at this fella play first, you know.
Oh yeah, as I said, that's fine, Paul, and I understand all that. But what I'm saying is, like, it's there's if they're still in discussions with him and they're still talking about him and they're still talking about a medical, and like, you know, like if, as I said, Carter Vickers more than likely isn't going to feature next week. They're saying it could be a hamstring. So the backline that finished today is more than likely going to be the backline to start the next game. And you know, I don't know.
He could bring Scales in there, Mark. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
You know, does this kind of put a damper on Scales' thing to Aberdeen, Terence, for the time being?
Well, you definitely wouldn't. I to be honest, Paul, I wouldn't have got rid of Scales regardless of the situation, because for me, I had this discussion with Mark. I would have said, obviously, Carter Vickers and Rocky, and for me at that stage, if no one else had come in, the way Scales had performed in pre-season, he was certainly third worst fourth choice, and it probably Welsh and Kobayashi for me was surplus to requirements. You know, but if they brought in another defender, I'd still have Scales there as probably the fourth defender. That was what I thought, because he could cover left back as well. Like,
I think we'll still bring in two.
Well, I hope so.
I think it'll be the Swedish boy, and it'll be that wee Xavier Mbadby or whatever it is you pronounce it.
Yeah.
The only name I can pronounce properly is
James Clydesdale.
The only name I ever got right on the live chat in the signing was Novoski, the Polish fella, because I know how to pronounce it properly.
Aye, I know, aye. James Clydesdale, thanks very much for coming in, mate. Thanks for joining
Bobby, what's your thoughts on this situation there, the centre-back role?
That's scary. I've got to say, I definitely agree with Terence on the one that if we're going to, I know obviously you can only work with what you've got, and if there's players injured, you're not just going to keep buying players in. When players are injured, you need to wait for them coming back and that. But if we were going to Ibrox and it's only like a month away, and it was like the defence that played the second half, I wouldn't be very keen on that. You know what I mean? I would be quite worried going into that match. You look at what happened when they cuffed us the last game of last season. I know there was circumstances around that, but it was a makeshift defence that day, and they hammered us. Do you know what I mean? I know obviously we weren't switched on for that game, although we should have been, but we were well beaten when we had a disjointed team, and if we're disjointed going into that, who knows? Do you know what I mean?
Rebel 86 is saying Roger said that Welch could easily play 40 games this season. He also said to him that as long as I'm here, Stephen, you'll be at the club. You know, that's what.
The new Danny McGrain story,
Yeah.
Stephen. Well, I mean,
Do you know what?
I mean, I used to wind Mike up about it, right? I used to call Steve
Mark,
future Celtic
he
captain
actually did
Stephen
well.
Welsh.
Yeah, I thought he did well today when he actually
Aye.
played. Oh, fair job. When is the last
When
time
you've got players in that,
Stephen
when you've got
Welch
teams
played?
in that, when you've got teams in Italy and that watching you, you must have something. But I mean, as I said, I've backed him up, but I don't see him with any kind of long-term future at Celtic. Do you know what I mean? But if teams in Italy and that are looking at him, there must be something in there.
Yeah, but considering, right?
2 year time, we'll all be sitting there moaning, why did we let Stephen? Do you know what I mean? We'd never have let Stephen Welsh go. He'll go into the list.
You know
like
what, though, Mark?
Andy Robertson and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Welsh will be another one.
A Jack Henry one.
If we only brought in one centre back, right, and it's this Swedish lad, I won't let Steve Welch leave. Do you know what I mean? I won't let I probably, like you, Terence, I wouldn't let Liam Scales leave either. You know.
Kobayashi the only one that surplus the requirements.
Well, I think he's
He's
I don't-
stinking.
So to hear about
Aye.
him, he might be going to a team in Belgium on loan.
Yeah, he's
Aye.
brutal. He's brutal.
Just the same kind of thing with Jack Henry, Mark. He might be sent out and loan out there. You know,
He's
I
never,
don't think
he's never going to come good. He'll never come good
Uh,
over Rashi.
I don't think what I was the fella, what's his name, Mark, that we kind of kept an eye on with all the Japanese stuff.
Dan Horowitz, is it?
He said that if for a young player at his age, and if he was sent back to Japan, it'll be seen as a failure in European football in Japan. You know?
Well, it would be.
Yeah, so he I think he'd be kind of loaned to a team in Europe or maybe down League One, League Two. You know.
He's definitely not good enough for it. I've not seen anything at all for him to show that he's got any kind of any strengths or positive stuff that he could add to the Celtic team. I really don't.
No, but he's a decent size and all, like, height wise. And they said that he's a left-sided ball playing defender. He can't pass, and for his size, he's weak as anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
very weak. Very, very weak, Bobby. I fully agree with you there. Very weak.
totally bullied. That game against the Hibs, one of the last games of last season when they ended up beating us 4-2, and he actually started that game, and oh my God, I've not seen many worse performances than that.
But if you look, Bobby, at the 4 games that come to mind, Ibrox, against Hearts, Easter Road, and the St Mirren game with your man Curtis Main. He just ragdolled them. He literally ragdolled himself in a water. They couldn't deal with him, like. Couldn't deal with him, like.
Can you imagine that?
But look at the difference then with that, right?
Can you imagine Kobayashi against that big Duke for Aberdeen?
But that's like saying,
he's murdered.
look at the difference, Denmark, right? In Rocky coming into the Celtic team, like that. This is what we want. We want players who are able to come into the first team and perform. And I think hasn't put a foot wrong since he went into that centre back role next to Vickers. I think he looks very, very sturdy. Very impressed with him.
I think he's done well.
He picks a good pass as well. He picks out a good pass. He seems to be confident coming out, and then what I've noticed is when he pushes out the defence, he doesn't always look left or right. He's quite comfortable in playing a kind of cutting pass, like centrally, and he seems to hit the mark quite a lot with it. So I think he's looked quite good as well.
Yeah, he's looked very assured, to be fair. He has looked very assured. Even times today when the Aberdeen were playing it over the top and he was in a foot race with guys, you know, he didn't apart from where he came flying in at one stage and won one cracking tackle in a breaking ball, but he didn't dive in. He just shepherded the forwards, and he stuck with him. And you know, when his chance came, he might have toe poked the ball in or poked it away. I thought he's been very, very solid, very solid.
The good thing about him as well is he's relatively both-footed, and he actually played on that side of the central defence for Ligia. And also the big Swedish boy that we're looking at, he's much the same. He's both-footed as well and plays on the left side of the centre-backs. You kind of need that balance sometimes as well. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Well, Starfelt found his feet, done really well for Celtic, but he was never a left-sided centre-back. Do you know what I mean? And when he get caught out, it was due to that. You know what I mean?
And when Carter Vickers was injured and Starfelt moved there, Starfelt did look a lot.
He looked more comfortable there, Mark, didn't he?
In that position. You did.
He did. Definitely did.
But I'd always argue the point, what would have ever happened if they said to Starfelt, no, you can stay on the right, Carter Vickers, you're a better defender, you go on the left.
I wonder, does he go on the left-hand side when he's in bed with Jacinta, or does he go to the right?
I'd say he goes on top.
I wouldn't fucking mind what side I go on.
A fuzz in behind. Yeah, a fuzz in behind terms.
Yeah.
No, mind.
There'd be a few red cards with the challenges there, I'd say.
I see that as well, I'm not buying that. See, that's with Starfelt that he left to go to La Liga because she left. I'm not bearing that for a minute. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying it didn't play a part, right? But Starfelt, Paul, I've told you he's been wanting to leave before Christmas.
I think it's Mark. He's 29 and he wanted to get one last crack at some.
He wanted to play in like one of the big leagues.
Mhm.
Right, and see, if Jacinta, Jacinta, whatever her name is, if she hadn't been on the scene, he would have probably went down to England. Because that'd have been probably worth more money to him, a few extra grand a week playing down in the pub league and stuff like that. But he's moved to La Liga. It's not as if he's been away playing with some second division Portuguese team because she's in Portugal. He's only moved. He went to Spain to play in one of the biggest leagues in the world.
Still 3 years away fair or something. 3 years drive.
Aye, and it's a bit closer. It's this than whatever. But her leaving Celtic and none at all today with him leaving Celtic. Where he went, probably. What?
I bet you he's shaving the grass by before he heads to Spain. I say he's manscaping anyway. That's what he fucking is. Fucking
where she was probably played a kind of part in where the league.
I think it's about an hour and a half drive mark to where Vigo.
No, it's even longer than that. Bobby says it's about 3 or 4 hours, Paul.
Right.
As you said, Mark, Spain is a big draw. Like, you know what I mean? To play in La Liga is a big draw. Like, it's a big draw.
Probably it was a choice. Well, that I could go to England, but
if he really wanted to, he could have got a team in Portugal as well. He could have got a lower league team in Portugal if he wanted to. You know, but La Liga is a big one.
I mean, I don't follow much of women's football, but they never seem to hang about long at clubs. Any of the women players. So what happens next summer if she moves again somewhere else? What if she comes back to Celtic next summer? Starfeld's not going to be looking for a move back to Scotland.
Like Iffy Ambrose.
I know. I miss the
Scottish football, isn't it?
Aye.
I'm missing
the weather. Himself and who was it? Who's the other centre back? I forget the other centre back. It was Iffy Ambrose. It wasn't Virgil van Dijk and some other centre back to hold the record of the longest clean sheets in Scottish football.
Dana year.
IFB put that up the day, didn't he, Bobby?
Dana year, Van Dijk. I love they two together, man. They were brilliant.
Yeah. 14 games or something, weren't they? You know?
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. That was probably one of my favourite kind of the last so many years partnerships. They two were brilliant together.
Where did he actually go to?
He went to Sunderland. He was in Sunderland for a while, but God knows where he's gone now.
He's in Saudi now.
Is he Saudi? Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Went to Saudi this summer, for another one of them. You know what I mean? Hopefully from in football, every football player, where's he now? He's in Saudi now.
Never to be heard there again.
No.
Do you know who I'm actually starting to like as well is the South Korean Yang. I think he's
brilliant.
He's not afraid to take on a player or receiving the ball, Bobby, is he?
I'll be honest with you. That's one of the ones where I think sometimes when you watch a player, and I've said it a few times on the live chat or on the I think maybe the forum as well. I think you get a feeling about a player sometimes quite quick when you like the look of him. I think he's going to be a right good young. He's definitely got something going. He's fast. He's direct. He'll be a good one.
I mean, like that third goal there, Matt. Like he's crossed there to O'Reilly. Like that was spot on. Like, you know what I mean? He was just
even a couple of times, probably first time long ball passes that.
Yeah.
A few times he'll catch out defences if he can ping them as accurate and timely as that, Bobby. Do you know what I mean?
He's another one that looks quite strong and all, though. Do you think he's quite kind of well built as well? He's like, seen him when he came on the day. He's got a good shape and that about him. He's no, but it's the same with O. Do you know what I mean? They're very fit players. Do you know what I mean? It looks like he's got a decent bit of kind of build about him as well, so he won't be bullied as such.
I keep saying it. I think O's will be. When you were talking earlier on, we've said it as well, Paul, in terms about Kyogo falling back and playing a bit deeper. I think if Rodgers gets the players he wants, and it's going to be a 4-2-3-1, I think it's going to be Kyogo in that kind of number 10.
Kyogo playing that number 10 role that you said, yeah.
For the very first time I watched him, Paul, the way it's even just his movement in that, I think he's more suited to that kind of role. Just that kind of free role. Let him, just one of the players. You just give them the ball and let them do what they do.
Wasn't a bit of silly boy not telling the physios about he's injury. I know he's out for six weeks. You know.
I can maybe thought we could shake it off, and maybe didn't he?
I know, man, but like,
would you be surprised as well, though, Paul, that these guys have monitors on them in training? Do you know, the little things in the jerseys?
So didn't we bring in that system when Ange came in that predicts when the players fatigue the muscles, didn't he?
Yeah, but they probably had that maybe before that. Even most clubs in all games have that. But you'd assume that if the sports science guys are looking at that, reviewing the information and going, well, he normally runs X amount of kilometers in training and he does X, Y, and Z. God, he's down 20% and he's down 20% and he's down 15% and he's down. Like, you know, I'm surprised that someone hasn't kind of, I don't know what the injury is now, whether it's a hamstring or a muscle injury or whatever, but if it's a muscle injury in particular, you'd imagine you're not going to be, if you're watching yourself, you're not going to push yourself. It's what, sorry? Yeah, you're not going to push. No, you're not going to push yourself as much in training. If you think you've got a muscle that might go, you're going to hold back probably a little bit. So I'm surprised that someone either visually hasn't seen something or definitely with the mechanics that they have nowadays, that it hasn't come up in data to go, something not right there with this guy. Something not right there with this guy.
See, you know, the worst part of it is with regards to O as well, is he was probably one of the most impressive players pre-season, and I actually thought this was going to be the point where he properly kicked on. But you just hope that this isn't the beginning of some stupid injuries for him, and then maybe it potentially doesn't work out for him, because it does happen sometimes. Do you know what I mean? I hope he's not one of these ones that's kind of stop, start, because I think there's some real potential in there, but I don't know.
Just going on what Jab was saying there, I wanted Haksabanovic to do well. Can't seem. I think, Mark, you said as well in the live chat, his agent was told that he can find another club, wasn't they?
Aye, meant to be.
One of those players, wasn't it?
Aye,
you know.
Which I'm a bit disappointed. I like the look of him in that, but you can't be jumping about with that dyed blonde hair and stuff like that if you're not producing the goods on the park. You just look like a wee knob ending, didn't you?
Yeah,
really?
exactly. It's fucking. It's worse than, it's nearly as bad as Cantwell there.
It's that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? If you're running about with a bit kind of showing off your image or look at me and dyeing your hair mental colours and that, you've got to kind of back it up with what you're doing in the park. And he showed in flashes that he could be a player, but I think he's just going to be one of the players that's going to just bounce about club for the rest of his career. I really do.
He's a journeyman, isn't he?
Aye.
But if James Forrest is coming on ahead of you in the last two games, or this game, you know what I mean? Well, the other one, fair enough, it was trophy day, but if James Forrest is coming on ahead of him, that has to be...
Aye.
That has to be a red flag, like.
I think him about something today, just, I don't know, because it's been...
Could have a discipline issue, like... He could have a discipline issue, Mark. Yeah, but he could have a discipline issue, like, for argument's sake, obviously, Bernabé has obviously fallen into the bad books at Rodgers over, you know, like, to be honest, sleeping in and missing a meeting or whatever it was is, like, for professional footballers, brain dead. The meeting isn't at 7 o'clock in the morning, do you know what I mean?
They're meant to be pally as well. Haksabanovic and Bernabé are the best pals, you know.
So, do you know, are they a bit wild for Rodgers outside of it? You know what I mean? Does he think these guys are a bit too mad for me? Like,
they're supposedly really close. That's what they're meant to be like pals. You know what I mean? They two. So, if you don't notice when Bernabé scored that goal against the Japanese mob, it was Haksabanovic that ran up to him like, "Oh, do you know what I mean?"
You can see that when you say that, Bobby, but you can probably if you look at the two of them.
They look.
You think they're headbangers?
Aye, they look like a couple of daft young boys. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, yeah, I know.
Aye, the daft haircuts and all the tattoos and stuff like that.
Aye, maybe.
And then you see David Tomble then coming in with his haircut and they're going, Jesus Christ.
Tomble's isn't much better than Bernabé's, is it?
No, it's not really. Right?
But I don't know what you call them. I call them Peaky Blinder haircuts. Used to be called mullets. I don't know if they still call them but
no, they're kind of the two guys.
Paul's not one of them.
Yeah, they're kind of the two guys when there's a meeting. Okay, lads, who jumped in the car last night? And everyone just turns and looks at the two boys because you can bring Your prime colours, and they probably do stand up.
Right, who shot in Callum's kettle last night?
Yeah.
Aye, they're giggling away.
They two
Exactly,
sitting in
yeah.
the corner, but giggling at each other and that.
Didn't what's his name? Was it Gus Poyet did that? Was this? He shot in the away team's dressing room. Didn't think he left it there. Was that Gus
I don't
Poyet? Was
know.
it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Gus Poyet when he was down in I think he was Sunderland. When he was at Sunderland, they were in League One. I don't know who they were playing, and they lost. He did his shit in the way, and he left it there in the middle of the dressing room. Jesus Christ! We were speaking to him there early on, Terence Hlum. I think he's going to be a great player for Celtic in time.
I think he's a good player now, Paul. I think he's a good player now. I mean, any of the games, I said it the other day when I was talking about marking it, he looks very, very composed on the ball. He always looks like he's time. Like he's normally every time he gets the ball, his first touch and movement is always away into space. He looks very, very comfortable on the ball. And for me, when you see him on the pitch, I think it must be good comfort for McGregor. McGregor feels that he can go a little bit further forward because he just sits there and he just marshals in front of the centre backs. I think he looks a really, really assured player. A lot better. He looks more mature than 20. A lot more mature than 20. And I'd have no problem. I'd rather him start than Turnbull on today's performance. But it's like, again, I said to Mark there recently, Turnbull's either an 8 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. And he was a 2 out of 10 today. And that's the problem. You can't bank on it.
See, the thing is, I think if you were to play Turnbull every home game, like say for talking sake, home to Ross County, home to Dundee, home to St Mirren, home to the kind of more lower bottom 6 teams, he's probably going to score every week at home. I don't know. He'll probably score most weeks at home, if you get what I mean. But when it needs to get a bit kind of nitty gritty, Easter Road, Tynecastle, it's Audrey, he's not in the fight at all. He's not getting in the fight at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. But
Hold on now, by the way, there. See, that's there. Evening, James. I don't know if I said already. That's a new name, isn't it? Thanks very much for joining us, James. See that they said about Ian McCall shot his time with Stainrod Shoe, right? I don't know about that, right? But see that Ian McCall, it was either did he play with Motherwell? I'm not too sure off the top of my head, or he was in a trial at Motherwell, right? I used to work with a guy, and he scored the winning goal for Motherwell against Rangers at Ibrox, Junior Burns, and he was Gary McAllister's best pal. When they were at Motherwell, is like YTSs and stuff like that. And Junior told me a story that Ian McCall, and I think it was Jock Wallace at the time, was Motherwell manager, and tell him to learn how to trap the ball with his head, which just means like let the ball hit your head and drop at your feet. He was running about the training ground, throwing the bottom there and trying to catch in the top of his head to catch, so it would stay there for about an hour and a half. Gary McAllister and this boy Junior sat and watched him. He was a YTSer at the time as well, and he was just throwing it up in the air. And Jock Wilson, just kill the ball with your head and bring it down. He was trying to catch it to balance in his head, running about the training ground that Motherwell used at the time. Absolute idiot, man.
I would have put fucking rocks in it. That's what I would have, and them to throw it up.
You'd have just stuck to your bun, Paul.
What do you think? What he's actually
just land there and just stay there, no bounce. You know.
What, Bobby?
What he's actually meaning is think about it before you do it.
No, you really just if the ball's coming in, Bob, just like it's like you tap it with your chest. You learn how to bring the ball down with his feet, and he's trying to catch it.
Jesus.
Haxa must be rubbish in training. Steve, a new name again. Stephen, thanks very much again, Stephen, for coming in. Must be rubbish in training, but surely can see the same with Taylor. Made a quality left back.
Taylor,
see if they bring in a left back, but one of the two's got to leave, for whether it's in loan or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And as all these guys, the so-called in the nose and that Stephen McGowan, they have said that Rodgers wants a goalkeeper, a left back, and a left winger.
Right.
Well, I do think it's time, and I think Joe Hart was very, very lucky today that was offside, because he was sent off when he came outside the box. It was like the same thing against Ross County. He tried to chest it. And this time he looked like he tried to chest it outside his box, and he was nowhere near it. He took down the player. It was an automatic red card, only for that was offside today. And I think he was a very lucky boy today. And I do think it's time Celtic definitely need to sign a keeper because I don't know. In some ways, Hart looked impressive coming out, passing that ball today, coming out more in the area, getting down the floor thing. But there's one or two mistakes in Joe Hart the game, and against quality opposition, he will get punished with.
That was Joe Hart. That was Joe Hart at his best today, and that's saying something. Do you know what I mean? That you're not going to get a better performance than that from Joe Hart, and I wouldn't say that was. The day what I liked was when the ball was, when you were a wee bit under pressure and one of the defenders put it back to me, he was just lumping it, and that didn't have a problem with that today. Because when he starts trying to mess about with the ball at his feet, he's, oh man, scary.
Jack Rodgers has told him that just that's playing.
He brought him over during the game. You see that he brought him over?
He pulled him over.
He pulled him over during the game, and you could see him talking to him. And then, like, Hart was near the halfway line. Well, he wasn't far away from the halfway line, and he pulled him over. And you could basically, and it seemed to basically say that, you know what I mean? I don't have an issue with you giving it to Heave Ho, but because they said after the match, Mark, that Aberdeen hadn't watered the pitch on purpose.
And the grass was longer.
No, yeah, they said they didn't water the pitch because they didn't want it to be slick for passing. So whether they tried it at the start and they realised, you know, as they deem it, the ball isn't going as slick as possible. Do you know what? If the ball comes to you, just clear it.
Or he said to him, "Don't pass it to Turnbull. He's shit today." Yeah.
Well, there was a few more than him, now, Paul. To be fair, as I said, I like Greg Taylor, but Greg Taylor had a shocker today. Greg Taylor had a shocker today for him, well, and he's only quite steady. Like
Cal McGregor wasn't much better than Turnbull.
No, the two of them are very poor.
Do you know what? And I was thinking of it today, and it looked like the last two games, and I've been noticing it now for a while. Has McGregor lost a bit of pace, a bit of edge to him? I mean, has all these games he's been playing finally caught up with him? I know he's still young and can't ride off Cal McGregor, but I don't know, he seems to be missing something at the moment, don't he? Yeah, lost a yard, you know.
The first half he was shocking today.
You know.
But it's no coincidence though, Bobby, that when a Tate comes on or when that Holm fella comes on, that McGregor looks a lot better.
So is it
I think it's a formation thing myself. I don't think you can play with Turnbull. For me, Turnbull, McGregor, and O'Reilly. Like, what one of them are? Which one of them are box-to-box midfielders?
As I'm saying, you can see that the best positions are all number 10.
Same.
The three of them are all attacking midfielders. Do you know what I mean?
You know, Hitate's completely different. When Hitate's touch and go and move and bang, like it's like Paul said a while ago. Turnbull is more a case of 2 or 3 or 4 touches, and whereas Hitate's literally the ball comes to him and he's normally either 1 or 2 touches at most, and he's passing, it's around the corner, and it's huge difference.
Aye.
You know,
I see for McGregor. I just see honestly, if probably Scott Brown left, I don't think any Celtic managers fade in know what McGregor's best position is or where to fit him into a team.
I think Mark.
He's not a CDM. We can't play him as a CDM. For playing him as a CDM, and that
McGregor needs to be in the centre midfield, right? Dictating Celtic's play, but he needs someone in there to do that defending for him, and that's where I'd like to see Hlum. If Rodgers is going to play, he's 2 kind of midfielders, and maybe he will when he gets his players in, Mark, because Rodgers doesn't know his formation or his starting 11 yet.
I'd agree with that, Paul.
You know, maybe that's what we see, Mark. I'd like to see Hlum as the defensive midfielder because I think he has that bit of bite to him that he's not afraid to play a tackle there in that midfield. You know?
He reads the game good as well, Paul. He reads the game good. He reads the game very good, to be fair to him.
I mean, I said to Bobby, I thought Aberdeen done well today against us. He didn't quite agree, but at least they didn't come and park the bus. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, I think they done as well as any other team should do against us purely because they weren't peppering Joe Hart. Joe Hart didn't have all these different saves, and then you look at the second half. That when I showed you the stats, the second half they didn't even have one shot. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
he only had 2 shots and goal on target the whole
Aye.
game.
So I mean, it's scary enough, and it's in your head when it gets to 2-1, and they had a wee bit of spare of possession where you think, oh no, we could draw here. But that's all in your head. I think all in all, the second half, it was pretty utter domination. The second half, without us being too good as well.
Yeah, but then like was that
what I was going to
was
say
that
there.
then total domination, Bobby, when Hatase came on? Because as what Terence was saying there,
Yep.
Hatase was just getting the ball and he was moving it forward. Like there was no passing it back. There was no 1-2 touches in midfield. Do you know what I mean? He was just moving the ball. You know?
Hatate's like your Hatate for me is like your Petrov type player, box to box.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
We've no got the. If you're looking on lights of that team, there was Lennon, who was your sitter, moved the ball on. There was Petrov, he was the box to box, and then for talking sake, there was Lambert, who was just a standard central midfield player. Do you know what I mean? So there's your CDM every day of the week. Somebody that just sits in the midfield and somebody's up and down. We don't have that mix. Do you know what I mean?
We've got too many players that are kind of similar styles and skill sets and stuff like that.
Maybe that would be Home, McGregor, and Hatate. But is Hatate going to be here? Home could sit. McGregor could just stay central, and then you could have Hatate going up and down. Maybe these three would be good. But will we say these three together? We don't know.
Yeah, but O'Reilly, to be fair, has been brilliant in the 2 games.
Definitely.
He's been absolutely brilliant. He's been super. But the one thing Celtic surely have to realise from today, and when you were saying about Aberdeen as well, clearly the teams that are playing Celtic have just said, right, we're just going to press them as high as we can, because Ross County did the exact same thing as Aberdeen. They just pushed as far up as they could, and it's basically try play through us, so to speak. And like again, there were certainly stages in the start of the game there today where Aberdeen were not on top, but they're a lot better than Aberdeen of old, where they would sit back like a couple of years ago, where they were absolutely shambolic. They didn't even they hardly came out of their own half. It's no coincidence Ross County have done this. Aberdeen have done it. They've literally gone with a high press to try and, because they know Celtic are going to try and play out from the back and all that. So obviously it's something maybe even Roger saw, and maybe that was a reason where Roger said maybe go a little bit longer, play a few more longer passes, because they were leaving 3 at the back, Aberdeen, to 3 Celtic attackers. So, I don't know.
James Clydesdale is saying there, to think we could cut a deal for Doug for Scales or maybe Kobe. I've been very impressed with him any time I saw him.
We were talking about him today, aye.
He really takes the game to the opposition, doesn't he? He's not afraid to run with the ball or have a shot. Any time I've seen him now, I've actually, and I actually could see Rodgers today looking at him being impressed with him. You know,
he's a good size as well. He's quite muscular as well. He's quite strong as well, which is good. You know what I mean? He gets mucked in there as well, and I think he's one that would work out at Celtic as well. I would probably take him.
Aberdeen are meant to want £8 million for him. I know they'll probably not get that, but they're quite. I mean, they're entitled to ask for it, but they might get 5 or 6. I mean, why no?
You'd be looking at Scales and probably still 4 million at least. Then, do you know what I mean? But I don't know.
Scales in 2 million, surely.
But Scales isn't it? I mean, what's he worth though, Mark? Really? I mean, he's worth 1 million, 2 million, maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, to us, but what's he worth to Aberdeen?
Aye, no, I get that, but
do you know what I mean? If like
you would tell you something, if you could give them Scales and 2 million, what a deal that would be. Do you know what I mean? What a deal that would be. But
where would he play?
He can play anywhere. That's the good thing with him. I know he likes. I think he is more striker in a 2, which him and Nat Miovski done the day. But he's played left. He's played right.
I was going to say, see, the day he kind of kept me in mind of Samaras.
He
kept drifting out to the left-hand side.
But he's played right wing as well. He'd be a very handy signing purely because you can put him in the right wing, you can put him in the left wing, you can put him behind, you can play him up top.
Surely we're going to be spending some of Yotta's money replacing. I still expect Celtic to bring in 4 players. The end of the transfer. I think we're going to bring in 4 players.
Roger says that. This is the day that should be
goalkeeper, the centre back, a winger, and maybe a striker. Maybe I'm not too sure about a striker, but definitely a winger, centre back, and a goalkeeper.
They have to bring in a striker, Paul. They have to bring in a striker. Because if O's injured, and like Bobby was saying there, like they're given an estimation on whatever it is, 6 weeks or something like that. I don't know, is that 6 weeks for the injury to recover, or 6 weeks for him to be back to match fitness?
Yeah.
I don't because if it's a 6 week injury, then it's an 8 week layoff, because it's going to be another week or two before he gets fit. But if Kyogo gets injured, then you're down to either deciding it's Abada through the middle or Maeda through the middle.
Because if Kyogo goes down on that shoulder again, do you mean that's what kind of keeps Kyogo out, is that shoulder injury?
He probably will. That's the issue. Like
yeah.
Ange told him supposedly Ange told Kyogo last year that it would probably be beneficial to go under the knife and get it mended. But he also says that's a player's decision. Kyogo said he didn't want to go down that route. And Rodgers spoke about the same thing when we were in Japan. He says it's something we'll need to manage, but it might be something that he needs to get mended properly long term. He should have had it done before now.
But I don't, Stearns, I can't see Celtic going out and spending, but 2, 3, 4 million £4 on a striker just because O's been gone about for 46 weeks. If Rodgers plan was to bring in a striker,
it'd be in.
Yeah.
No, it'll still happen. But I don't think the injury to O's would change that. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
If they didn't want to bring a striker in, I don't think getting injured is going to say, we need a striker. Because in 6 weeks when O's back in the team, this striker that we've just spent 3 or 4 million for, like, what's happening here?
But could you look along the lines of what you always say, Mark, where take Maeda out of the equation, right? Like, take Maeda out of the equation through the middle and you've just got Kyogo and O. So what you always say, a really young one that's cutting his teeth, or an older head that's willing to play when he plays. Do you know what I mean?
Antonio.
I would love him to sign, by the way.
I think that's just internet rumours and stuff. I don't think there's anything in it at all. But
I'd love him
like
to
that. I mean, what is he, 33, 34 or something?
33.
Right, that would be ideal. That would be
2 or
ideal.
3 years. He'd score goals for fun up here.
Aye.
He's a big brute and all, do you know what I mean? He would bully the defenders up here, that's for sure.
But something like that, I'd be into that kind of thing,
I get quite interested with links like that, but I think it's a very loose link, Mark, as you say. I don't think there's any real substance to that one. Do you know what I mean?
Just people putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5. Do you know what I mean? And then it gathers traction on social media, and before you know it, there's people writing articles about why it won't happen.
No, but he made a comment about it as well. He made a comment when remember Ange's first season when West Ham came up and cuffed his 6-2. Minded the friendly. There was an interview previous to that game, and he was that's the first time I played at Celtic Park. It's a privilege, it's an honour to play up here. He says, I bet it would be a really good team to play for. It'd be a great kind of club and a good stadium to play your football in. That's all it is. So they went for that. Do you know what I mean?
Evening, Campsy boy. Nice to see you, mate. Thanks for coming in, Jerry, bud.
Do you think, though, maybe in terms of transfers, is Brendan Rodgers trying to clear out the deadwood first before he kind of brings in players, because it is a big squad really that we have. I know one player that could be on his way out is Seagrass. I think his agent is trying to negotiate a deal in Australia for him to move to Australia because his fiance actually lives over there.
Aye.
You know, and that's been going on since last year, Mark.
Because we said that the other week, didn't we? It was weird that he get game time in the pre-season games, considering he's basically asked Celtic to release him for his contract.
Celtic should just end it now and let him go, like.
Aye.
You know, if he's going, he's going. Do you know what I mean? What's the point in dragging it on, like? You know what I mean? He wants to go. He understandably wants to go. His missus on the other side of it. I don't know why they're all waiting around for all the rest of it. Get another keeper in that they need and just say to you, man, look, take care, enjoy the flight, like, and all the best, like.
Mm-hmm. Any other players do you think that might be out the door, Mark, or any wee lads? Or do you think? Did I hear Yessy's kind of digging his heels that he doesn't want to go.
Meant to be Celtic offered him a kind of pay off and he's rejected it. Which
Yeah, and he's not even at the club at the moment, Mark. I believe
No.
he's not even, he's surplus of requirements. He's been told that, like he's just refusing to kind of go. I know kind of Basel kind of been hinting again, but I think they're just all kind of paper talk as well. Like there's nothing concrete of any team kind of coming in for him,
Because wages, Paul, he's probably on so much. He's probably going, well,
Mm-hmm.
you gave me the contract. I'm gonna see it out and get my full whack. Because apparently some of the figures, I don't know how true they are. Thought someone said he was on like 33,000 or something like that. I don't know whether that could be complete nonsense now as well. Like
He must be on coke.
I don't know. He's because obviously this when they signed him, what was it, 5.5 million or something? Lennon went after him the whole lot. So maybe they gave him. Lennon promised him the moon and the stars to come here, and maybe he did get the big contract, and maybe he's gone, well, I'm not going anywhere, because if he's Basel or someone like that, I don't know what the way the Swedish league is financially or whatever the money is over there, but then it might only be, for argument's sake, 10 or 15,000 for argument's sake, and he's going, well, I've no intention of leaving. I'm going to see out my contract till the end of the year, and head for the hills, and I get a new sign-on fee with someone else when my contract's finished. I'm a free agent. That seems to be what he's going down the road of.
But they're Brian saying as well, Sorrow. Do you know what I mean?
I've heard
They're
something
Sorrow, Ayeti, James McCarthy.
but I heard something
these
about
wages.
Sorrow, Mark, right? That he was trying to get a deal to
You can
go
throw
to
Forrest
Turkey,
in there, no?
but there was some illegalities with his agent over in Turkey beforehand, and that deal wouldn't go through. Supposedly that there's kind of a ban on his agent dealing with any club in Turkey.
All right.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah, there was two clubs. I saw that as well, Paul. There was two clubs were vying from him, but I saw that there was some legal thing going on there. I saw that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, something to do with his agent and dealing with in Turkey.
See, that's what happened with Rangers. Were signing that him for the American, the boy for Ecuador for the MLS. I can't. Is it?
Cifuentes.
Is that how you pronounce it, Bobby?
We were
Rangers
linked to him, man. We were linked to him.
He's a good player, by the way. Even Mikey said to me that he was a good player, and that he's probably the best player they've signed this summer. But Rangers were talking to an agent for months, and then all of a sudden it came out that the agent wasn't authorised with UEFA and FIFA to do these kind of deals, and that knocked it. That's how it took so long for him to come across. Rangers were negotiating with an agent and no right to be negotiating the deal.
Wasn't that the same with Tevez going to West Ham and Marciano going to Liverpool as well, Mark? Wanted some third party owned them.
Aye, third party ownership. That was
yeah,
a problem,
yeah.
kind of thing. Aye, but
We were linked with that Cifuentes about a year and a half ago. I remember seeing his name and I thought, oh, he looks a good one. And no doubt about it, he could work out quite well for them, by the way.
Aye. Mikey said to me he's the best signing that they've made so far this summer. Do you know what I mean?
He could be a dodgy one. Aye, he has a good signing.
Bollocks, he'll have fucking cheerleader Cantwell trying to cross the ball to him. We'd be grand, don't worry about that. Speaking of Cantwell, it won't be a podcast load of pants.
Don't like him.
Nah.
He'd frustrate me, but that's good.
Listen, he's not that bad a player. I know that maybe it's a controversial thing. He isn't a bad player.
No, he's not.
He saw his other crap, man. Being a Celtic fan, he's the hate figure now.
He's
brought it on himself.
Aye.
But he's happy enough to do it.
He's the one where...
But that shows how thick
but that's how they love that then, like, you know what I mean? You know?
Do you know what I mean? If you kind of understand how to... It's not as if he's going down to some team in England and a wee dig on social media, which is laughed off and kind of stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It appears a different kettle of fish altogether. And in a couple, if he's here as long, in a couple of years, he'll cut right down and all that stuff, because there's arseholes in both sides. Do you know what I mean? I'll admit that there's arseholes in the Celtic support that will take things too far with him. Do you know what I mean? And he'll boot with I don't know if he's got a wife or kids, but he'll boot with somebody. And see the thing about it, but somebody at Rangers should take him to the side and say, here, screwing up with all this kind of stuff. This could come back and bite you in the bum big time up here, all this kind of social media think you're a big man and stuff like that.
He's the one where, like, we used to be, Celtic fans hated Barry Ferguson, Rangers fans hated Lennon, Celtic fans hate Morelos. He's put himself in that position now. Do you know what I mean?
He's like the way Scott Brown would have been with Celtic. We would have loved him. They would have hated him.
Scott Brown with the Rangers fans. He's just
but Scott Brown doesn't put 56 in his shorts, does he?
Aye. You know I'd compare him to Joey Barton.
Yeah.
Rather than somebody like Scott Brown or anybody like that. He's come up here and he's just acted. And to a certain extent, I think he's kind of looking down his nose at the Scottish game in general. As if,
I'm really comparing it back. I was only comparing it to not obviously the individuals, but in the sense the hate figure from both sides. The way Scott Brown would be disliked so much by him and loved by Celtic, it would be they'd love him, and Celtic. He's kind of enemy number one. You know what I mean? Morelos is gone, and he's taken over that mantle.
He needs to win something first before he can back the big ball up.
All the players could back it up in the park. Even the set of Morelos was he was poor against Celtic, but all his other goals for Rangers were important goals for them and stuff like that. I mean, but that wee Cantwell just rocked up here with his wee dodgy dyed hair and stuff like that. It's just what I'm saying about Haksabanovic. That kind of thing, it's all the showy stuff, look at me. And
I'm really surprised Chris Sutton hasn't had a word with him, because obviously from Sutton's time at Norwich, he knows all the players and all the bits and pieces, and he had spoken about him. I'm surprised even Sutton hasn't pulled him aside and said, "I dial it down a tone if I were you, pal, because this could be eggs in your face."
Sutton is tearing to shreds on Twitter.
Right,
that's what he is. Jesus Christ, like.
But it's just look at every all these other superstars. Celtic sign players and they come in and they show up. I mean, a Celtic could sign a player like a big Polish defender. He could have come in the other week and that and done I come out here, well, the league title, that's already in the bag. Do you know what I mean? It'd been a pure arrogant sod about it. Celtic signings and players don't come in and act like that. I mean, I've just said 100 times, social media gets a bit over my head and how you attract attention and try to get likes and look at me. But you can understand why football players and that use it. But guys, like for me, if I was a Celtic player doing what Cantwell's doing, I would be going nuts about it the now. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm saying about Haksabanovic. He's running about there with the dyed hair and look at me, I'm this and I'm that, and he's done hee-haw in the park. And that Cantwell really, for me, that Cantwell just the same as you said, Bobby, until they win something or challenge for something or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Win something, exactly. As we're saying, Barry Ferguson won everything. Neil Lennon won everything. Scott Brown won everything. Okay, Morelos didn't, but he did do very well for them in Europe. But Cantwell, he scored a goal against Celtic and they beat his last.
But Morelos won everything with them anyway. Did he know?
In a different team.
Maybe no. He wouldn't have won the League Cup. He wouldn't have won the League Cup, wouldn't he? No.
No, what I mean is
he won the Scott. He did win the league with them. Fair dues. It was a COVID one and that. But I know what you're saying. But at least Morelos.
Do it 2 or 3 years in a row, then you're the
Aye. Don't come in and act a big man because you're Scottish football Tuesday. You keep saying Joey Barton.
Yeah.
That was the ultimate one. Aaron Ramsey, guys like that come over and think it's all going to be a doddle. And Celtic's had them over the years as well. I'm not disputing that. But they all get chewed up and spat out as well. People who thought they were coming up here for an easy ride. And he'll learn. He's just a stupid arse. He'll wind his neck in it.
Between him now and Beale saying that Kilmarnock was his first game in charge. I was looking when I heard that. You hear that?
His own team. I seen that.
Kilmarnock was his first game in charge with his team, because last season it wasn't his team.
Aye. His first game in charge was last week with his team. So,
he's an idiot.
But that's just someone making an excuse for himself. Like at the end of last season, it was Beale is after closing the gap because they when he came in they were 12 points behind or 9 points behind, and he only finished however many points behind and blah blah all this nonsense. All these things mean they're winning games that make no difference. It's like, as I said, that Mark is saying there about your man Cantwell, that was with the greatest respects, it was a derby, but it was a meaningless game. The league was won. You know what I mean?
When Beale came in, they were actually 9 points behind, and it went to 13 points. It went to 13 points to us. It went up.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
But then when it went down was when we started dropping points in like the last few weeks of the season, and it finished at 7. So they deluded fans think, oh well, we cut the gap down. When he first
that's what they were saying.
It went from 9 up to 13. So we put.
Oh no, I get you, but that's what they were saying, Bobby.
Wait till they get pumped by us, and then they get pumped by PSV. You know what I mean? And then
I don't even think that. I'm not sure.
That crowd might do a job yet, Paul.
PSV.
That crowd they're playing might do a job yet. It's only 2-1, like.
Yeah, it's only 2-1. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they might even get the PSV. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I think it was Mikey. Was it Mikey or U-turns that said to me on the phone the other day that they've no lost a home game for something like 2.5 years or something like that.
Yeah, and they were missing a lot of their first team.
That would be definitely Michael anyway, Paul. Or Mark, it wouldn't be me.
Somebody did tell me that the other day. Paul, you said I know they were missing 8 players or something.
Yeah,
they spent what the last half hour and went down to 10 men.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the next TikTok.
Last April was the last lost a game at home. So that's no kind of certainty that they'll get through against them.
They could quite comfortably be Celtic's Bodo Glint, like.
Bear in mind that in their league they'll be playing against Genk. There are a lot of decent teams in that league. Do you know what I mean? There's some decent teams in that league. It's no like, I mean, that's more than a few half decent teams in that. You know what I mean?
I say, Bobby, I say all the time, right? There's these leagues in Europe that even to us as Celtic fans, to a certain extent, we probably look down our nose at. But see, when you see like Switzerland, Austria, Belgium, these kind of what we even we look down our nose at. Apart from Celtic and maybe Rangers, the overall standard of their leagues are a lot higher than ours. Even like the Norwegian leagues and the Swedish league and that, for me, I would say
Mark, I was over in Poland.
There you go as well, Paul. Polish league.
And I tell you this now, Mark, right? When we were going to traveling through all the different cities, you know, and go to the beach and stuff like that for the week, where there was amateur pitches, right, for under 15s and under 16s, right, with little stadiums, under 15s and 16s. Now this is like with little stadiums would hold about 200 people for the local community to watch the youths come in, and the pitches were better than the pitches up in Scotland and Ireland. And that's under 15s and under 16s. You wouldn't even see the grass in it, Mark, was just unbelievable, you know. And they're like people, like that's what we do. We look down in these clubs, but we don't know nothing about these clubs and how far they've progressed in football. You know what I mean? You know?
I mean, you look back at the teams that we've went out to in Europe. They've went out to these kind of the qualifiers in Europe, the teams like Hibs and Hearts and Aberdeen and Dundee United other years have went out to, and we laugh at them. You know what I mean? Scottish football fans in general. I mean, a fair dues. Half it's kind of quote unquote banter, just that your team's been beat with a team for a diddy league. But as I said, Paul, apart from Celtic and Rangers, the majority of these teams are better ran. In fact, even just if you're talking about how they're ran, you can even take Rangers out of that equation. Apart from Celtic, the majority of these teams in all these so-called wee diddy leagues are. The quality of everything, their setups are a million times better than we've got in Scotland. The quality of the league's probably better than we've got in Scotland. Look
at Bovril that knocked us out. They're constantly promoting their youth into the first team.
Look at the
constantly saying, you leave Celtic Towns. Do you know what I mean? Leave Celtic.
Look at Bodo Glint's pitch. You'd swear it was grass. You'd swear it was a grass pitch that night when they showed it on the telly. You'd take if you didn't realise there was 10 foot of snow pushed off the pitch all around it, you'd assume it was grass. And then you watch that, and then you turn on the match against Livingston or against Kilmarnock, and there's a carpet company just after laying it down. You know, their pitches are. You look at Kilmarnock and Livingston, their pitches are shocking. And then you look at Bodo Glimt,
Robbie
and their
Park-
pitch is immaculate. Like,
Isn't it? Robbie Park, isn't it? That's artificial as well, isn't it?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Kilmarnock and Livingston are two pitches were atrocious. Like, the ball could go anywhere. And you looked at that night against that Bodo Glimt crowd, and you would genuinely think that the pitch was grass. It was immaculate. Like, and it was obviously AstroTurf because of where they're from with the weather and everything else. But it didn't look like it. It didn't look like an all-weather pitch. Like, you know, there's a huge difference. But again, it comes from a level of ignorance and snobbery and all the rest of it to think that they mightn't be great, they mightn't have this, they might have that. They clearly are a very, very well-run club in a small community, in a probably small enough budget, and bringing players through and selling players on, and been very, very successful at it. So, you know, as you're saying,
Bodo Glimt would probably come third, and maybe a push second in the Scottish League terms.
With the way they played that night, they'd come first.
No, but just in general kind of thing, just even the way the clubs are set up, the way they're run, the youth systems they've got, the training facilities they've got, and everything. And as I said there, apart from Celtic, really, and maybe put Rangers into that bracket, the rest of these wee diddy leagues and these clubs they'd embarrass the rest of Scottish football. Do you know what I mean? When you look at the kind of, the Livingston manager was going on out in the press a few weeks back. Oh, we've only sold 300 and something season tickets or something like that. And he's like, but you shouldn't be allowed in your top division if you're only selling that amount of season tickets. I know that sounds a bit cut and but
it's scandalous stuff.
Well, Bobby's bolted. You away, Bobby? Are you coming back on, bud? But things like, I mean it's got to be a kind of closed shop, but surely there's a criteria that you've got to meet certain standards to be allowed into top divisions.
No, it's that's appalling. Like, if there's 300 season ticket holders or season tickets with the greatest respect to Livingston, that's appalling. Like, and like, you know, I mean, it only more compounds things when you see stuff like that. Why the Scottish football or the Scottish League gets such a hammering. A top flight team with 300 season ticket holders.
There's too much pressure.
Sorry, Paul. Sorry.
Yep.
David Martin, 4th of May 2023. David Martindale was revealed that Livingston have sold less than 100 season tickets for next season, and that will affect his recruitment. Fair dues, that's at May. That's the beginning of May. Maybe I've sold more than that new terms, but they've no selling any kind of significant numbers on it. Do you know what I mean?
That's the reason I suppose they give 3 sides of the ground to Celtic and Rangers. Do you know, that's probably the reason why that's their payday twice a year, like, or you know, the 2 home games when they play them.
But you know what? Fair dues to Aberdeen fans there, right? They filled the stadium. You know, but I know issues with that, Mark, if they cut back.
But they didn't.
Team. No, they didn't. They kept it the same. But that's what I'm saying. If these teams are cutting back Celtic and Rangers allocations in these games, and they're not filling the stadium, then,
no.
Do you know what I mean?
Another scandal. It's just another stupid bit of Scottish football, Paul. I've said it for long enough. See, like if you're one of the smaller clubs like St Johnstone, something like that, you've got enough season tickets. You sell your season tickets, and you tell your season ticket holders, look, see when Celtic's here and Rangers here, yous are all getting moved to where yous are. Into the main stand. You'll get free pies, you'll get free programmes, the Waynes will get pictures of their hero players or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But the rest of the grunge getting sold to the Celtic or Rangers fans. And then the guys, I mean, no Celtic fan got to care getting a picture took with a Kilmarnock fan or something like that. But these young players, or these young boys and that, be like, oh, Daddy, come on, we can go and get pictures took, we'll meet so-and-so, we'll do this. And do things like that. And
So
give the fans that you're asking to move seats, give them an incentive.
Yeah.
Aye.
But you see, Paul, I was just going to say, sorry, Paul. The problem with it is, obviously, we all know where this stemmed from. All right, it is stemmed from, and it's basically snowballed. And I was talking to Mark about this. How the SPL or the SFA or Sky Sports or the powers to be haven't got involved in this, I don't know. Because for argument's sake, with Celtic and Rangers, with this nonsense of the 700 tickets, Like that's it's 1.1% of Celtic's ground is 700 tickets, and it's 1.4% of Rangers' capacity is 700 tickets. That is an absolute nonsense that's happening. And nonsense. And I know a lot of people will say they don't want any Rangers fans at Parkhead and blah, blah. That's fine. I completely, and I've always said, I completely disagree with it because I think it makes for the atmosphere. I think it's brilliant when there's 7,000 or whatever it is, 8,000 Celtic fans at Ibrox and vice versa. And I think it takes away from the game myself personally. Again, that's only my own opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But I don't know how the SFA or the Scottish Board or Sky Sports or the powers to be haven't got in, because it's going to get very, very close, Paul, to a situation where there's basically going to be no away fans at any grounds. It's at certain grounds anyway. The likes of Rangers, the likes of Hearts, and you'll see other teams coming on board because they've reduced Celtic's allocation as well to a tiny amount. And it's going to become a situation where, from a health and safety point of view, it's not safe to have such a small amount of fans at an away ground. And it's becoming ridiculous.
Just two posts there I just want to read out from David there. There's too much pressure on us to win the league. The chance playing many youngsters. Our manager takes the gamble on youth, and if it goes tits up, he's out of job. And his second post is, if we went with youth, our support would mourn about the return of Biscuit Tinders.
I've said that.
Totally agree to that.
I said that for.
But I'm on the view, Mark, with the game is won. You've two youngsters on the bench, 75th minute, 80th minute. Bring these lads on, give them the first team football that they need. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm on about. You know.
But to a certain extent as well, Paul. Can see when we're playing again? No disrespect, these teams like St Mirren could be no of like. Could be no starts if he's going to be here and get promoted, won't he? It could be no Stephen Wells starting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That,
yeah, Ben Doak came on the bench today.
They don't need to.
On the 75th minute for Mo Salah.
But the players don't. They don't need to come on just like be 20 minutes because we're winning 2-0. Look at the opposition. Look at if we're playing at home and start one or two of them every game or that at the right time. But David said there, I've said that. How long have I said that, Paul?
Exactly.
Celtic fans just don't give anybody, don't give young players a chance.
But then, Mark, his third post is about Ben Doak. But I said to you today, Ben Doak came on for Liverpool today, and in about the 72nd minute, they took off Mo Salah for it, and he wasn't a bit impressed that a young fella was coming on for him. But these young players are going to top teams, leaving Celtic before they even get to the first team. You know, that's my point. I mean, so the quality is there. It's just how do we integrate them into the first team or try to get them that couple of minutes football? Do you know, that's the problem.
What I was saying, Paul, on that point, and I said it to Mark there previously, is if you have some young guys that you think, I know Summers has gone, I think, to Dunfermline, but we'll just use him as a point, or that Rakovata or one of these, with these other guys. I'd be saying, Paul, to them, right, you want to see how good you are, you're going to start every League Cup game. You're going to start every League Cup game for us. Because there's no point bringing a guy on for 10 minutes because realistically you're not going to see any huge amount of a young guy in that situation. But I'd have no problem saying you're going to start a League Cup game. You're still going to be, the rest of the Celtic team is going to be nearly all first teamers. You're going to play every League Cup game we get to, even if it's to the final, and show me how you're doing. And like Mark says, pick maybe 3 or 4 league games at home. Again, with the greatest respects to St Mirren's or the lesser side, St Johnson or something like that, at home, and say, and we're going to start him in this game, this game, and this game. And if he has a run of 8, 9, 10 games, pretty much nearly full games, you'll get a good indicator of what kind of a player he is. You're not going to get an indicator of a player for 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes here. He mightn't even touch the ball in the 10 minutes. That's what I'd like to do for 1 or 2 players. I'm not saying wholesale changes, but I'm saying a player, if you have identified a player like a Ben Summers example, say to him, or Rookie Vada, that you're going to play every League Cup game this season and a couple of league games and see what you can do. And then you'll get an idea whether the guy can step up to the mark or not.
But then,
right.
Then we
Oh,
saw
there's a counter.
if it was make Mark the manager get penalties then for putting in these youngsters. You mean, so you kind of don't know what to do. Like, you know what I mean?
But my point to that was, Terence, is like, do we have players? This is the kind of conundrum for me. Do you have players that you say, right, you're going to get the League Cup games? Which, what happens if we get Rangers in the, but is it the third round and we're out? Is that the young player just a way back down to playing that Lowland League? Are they better what we're doing with like Boss and Lil that away down to Scott Brown on loan, hopefully playing in, week out?
I think that's a great move for him.
Definitely. I think that's a great move for him as well.
As I said to you, Mark, there, Villa was sniffing around him and and Everton were sniffing around him last, and there was a couple of championship clubs as well that were looking at him. You know, he actually signed a new contract.
I agree with what you're saying, Mark, but what I'm saying is, again, I'm just saying if they have one or two individuals that they think are first team material and they're potentially going to be on their bench during the season, and they don't think that they're going to be loaning them out, I'm not saying the wholesale changes. I'm literally saying it's one, maybe two guys. So you're going to say to him, if it's, again, I'm only using Ben Summers because he would have been my prime example. As I said, I know his way. You're going to play every League Cup game. And if they do draw Rangers away in the third round, then so be it. But you said to him, you're going to play him in the League Cup game. Play him in the League Cup game. See how good he is. And you're still going to pencil in St. Mirren at home, maybe St. Johnson at home, maybe Livingston at home, and give him those games as well. Like, that's what I would be saying. If you're identifying an individual that you think, like, this guy really could give us something this season, then put him on and see what he can do. You're not going to see, as we said before, you're not going to see for 10 minutes here and there. You're just not. But put him on in those games, the League Cup games, and put him on in 4 or 5. Start him in 4 or 5 league games. He doesn't have to play the whole 90 minutes. If after 50 minutes or 40 minutes he's having a stink, you can take him off. Like, you can protect the young Flynn, you can take him off. Do you know what I mean? You got to treat him the same as every other player on the pitch. Like.
Aye. Just even what you're saying, but say, like, not just the League Cup games, just say, look, this is like taking a young player to the side and saying, look, I'll give you the League Cup games this season, but you meet these targets, you do this, blah, 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 this is the targets we're setting you, and if you're hitting these targets, I'll make sure that you play 20 games a season for Celtic this year. Do you know what I mean? Tell them, look, if you play well, I'll guarantee these League Cup games, I'll guarantee you Scottish Cup games against like wee lower league teams, and I'll guarantee you the odd start in the like domestic games with certain teams. But it's up to you then to take this chance and prove to me, and I'll put you up a level and give you a chance against the next level of the Scottish teams.
Exactly, and with great, and exactly, and I mean it in the sense so like if you can't make one change, say for argument's sake at home to St. Mirren and bring on that young flying say, right, I'm going to start, and you're worried about making that one change against home, then there's something seriously wrong. The rest, the other 10 players on the pitch are probably going to be the first names on the team sheet most weeks. So the team shouldn't be a drastic change. If anything, it should help. It should be even helping the young lad. But at least you'll see how good this young lad is with all the first teamers around him at home at 60,000 against St. Mirren, or if it's away in the League Cup game to Kilmarnock or St. Johnson or Hearts or whoever it is. There's no point saying I wouldn't play him there. But like, if we want these guys to progress, eventually there's going to become a time where he's going to have to play there. So why not in a League Cup game with the rest of the full team, or at home in league matches against, again, the teams I mentioned, and let him see what he can do. That would be for me.
Speaking of youngsters, Rocco Vata is after changing agents, and he's after signing up with Ange's agency. That's a bit concerning, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think he'll be here.
No, he's gone. He's gone.
Mark, yeah. And I think that's why he's not in and around the first team anymore as well, I think.
Well, he's been offered a new contract, Paul, and you see that he signs that he'll not be here. That's basically the situation. His contract's been sitting there for months. And it's like we've we Islam Farouz and we Karamoka Dembele and that, Paul, just absolutely bad advice for people that should know better, in my opinion.
I agree totally with you. Back to our old transfers, because we had a rant there about everything there. Where's the key positions you like to see sorted before the transfer deadline closes? Darren, yourself?
I said it before as well to Mark when you were away, Paul. For me, I think keeper, centre back, depending on how many, maybe possibly two, definitely one. I still think they need a centre forward. I can understand. I said it even when when O was fit, and possibly a left full, because of the fact that for me, I think Rodgers has an issue with Bernabeu. I really do. I think he's rubbing him up the wrong way, to be honest, along with obviously Haksabanovic, as was mentioned. So I'd say he could be for the off for certain. He could be surplus to requirements, but I would definitely think those positions for me, Paul.
Mm-hmm. Mark, yourself?
Goalkeeper's a certainty. The centre back.
What is this? The thing? What's the deal with Lovrich, the goalkeeper? Is that dead in the water, or are they still waiting for the Champions League team to see where they are?
Well, some people are saying that he said to Dynamo Zagreb, isn't it?
Yeah.
He said to them that will sort out the kind of Champions League qualifying stuff, and that went a bit potty the other night with that key fan. EK fan getting murdered, man. So totally sad, that, man. I mean, like we've spoke about stuff like that before. There's football rivalry and that, but
that's too bad.
No, I mean, you don't get about killing people at football. Goalkeeper, centre back, and I still think it'll be two of them brought in. There'll be a few. I still think there'll be a bit of gut out in the defence department, and I don't know. I mean, all these kind of in-the-know guys are saying we're looking for a left winger, but I'd rather maybe go for like what I keep saying about like an older striker, just for strength in numbers. I mean, it's like Jota. Do we need to replace Jota as such?
Not really.
Well, who'd you have there, Mark? If Maida gets injured, you just have Maida, really, don't you?
Well, you mean Yang came on today. You mean that guy Yang was he was cracking today, like.
Yeah, but did he not come on for a bada? Can he play in the both wings like he does?
That's the thing. I missed Paul. Missed these kind of modern wingers can switch from side to side.
Well, do you
instead of going outside, he just cuts inside.
Do you know what I was reading about Japanese football? Do you know when they go to these colleges of football? All right, they're trained in 4 different positions. They play in 4 different positions because if an injury comes to the team, they don't have to go out and buy a player that this player can slot into that position.
That's total football. That's the
exactly.
That's the Ajax thing, the Dutch model, Paul. That's that's total football and stuff like that. It's
good, like, isn't this?
Well, it's like Tati played it right back for us.
Right back, yeah.
Brilliant.
Do you think he's in a huff today?
Would you blame him? Tobin starting in front of you?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame Paul, but like, you know, I was just. I don't know. I just thought when he went down injured, I just thought. I don't know whether Tati or Roll might have tried to keep going. I don't know. I'm suspicious whether he was fully injured. Put it that way.
Tati, I'm not convinced that Tati's got to be here coming the shot of the window. I'm really no.
I'm not convinced he was fully injured today. I'm not.
I think, Mark, it's kind of more than likely that is going to happen, Caside would either go to Chelsea or Liverpool. Brighton will definitely come in for Tati.
I think so, I
think there's something there, Mark, as well, that he went down there to watch his, what's the fella's name that Celtic were after?
Oh, yeah. I think it's with K or something, is this?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to attempt to try and pronounce the name.
Good buddies with him that they were in the college as well, the scholarship in Japan together. So they're actually good friends. So I understand. I don't think we are. But if he does go, Mark, then we're letting a bit late, like, because we do need a replacement there for Haddad.
Maybe Holmes a replacement, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. True.
Maybe people are saying that, But and the actual word is starting to get right on my wick, signing projects.
I don't
He's
think
not a
clubs are
pro- he's not a
projects. What
project.
I've seen of
No,
him today and Jan, they're not project sides. They just
No.
need time to be integrated into the first team to get used to the way we're playing.
That boy, the young boy home, he's been playing the Norwegian top league for 3 or 4 seasons. The way why he's came to Celtic, get down the way playing that fucking Highland B League nonsense stuff. He's here to claim a spot in this team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and see the
100%.
thing about it, we can go back 2 years, right? And it was the last day of the window we signed Carter Vickers, we signed Abada. And probably at the time people are, look at this, here we go, penny pinching, 2 options to buy stuff. Carter Vickers, he was a project. Jota was a project. If you go back and look back what Celtic fans in general were saying at the time. And these players, just because they're no Abada, another example.
Mhm.
Just because they're no multi-million pound big name signings.
Exactly.
You've heard,
And because
doesn't mean
exactly, Mark. I agree totally with you. I agree
Aye.
totally. You know,
doesn't
just
mean that
because
they're here and
he's under
they're
20 or he's 21, he's a project sign. He's not a project signing. I mean, you look. He changed the game today when he came on.
aye.
He brought that physicality to the team that was actually missing for the last 3 seasons. You know.
I mean, for me, Holmes came
Do
in
you know
here
what, though, Mark? If we
as
signed
a
Blum,
first team starter.
Yeah.
if Ange was still, if we still had Ange, and if we signed Lum, I wouldn't see him getting into that team. I think he's more of a Brendan Rodgers player rather than an Ange player.
Aye, well, you might have
Agree.
a point there because I mean, well, Ange didn't seem to go too well
See
much
the
for the
physicality of it, Mark. Yeah, he never wanted
aye.
a physicality of the team. He said we didn't need it. You know what I mean? I think people are saying, "Oh, I think this is a Brendan Rodgers season all over it, Mark." You know what I mean? You know.
But it was one that was required, Paul. It's one that was required.
A big physique, Terence, that we were saying for the last 2 seasons that we were missing in the centre of midfield. Someone would have been a point.
But
And someone that can play the position.
I actually thought the day I tried to say earlier on, but we went off track. But I actually thought the day that we kind of looked a bit lightweight again. But just
Yeah, corners,
and
Mark,
especially in the first half, we just don't seem to have
we're a
that
very
physique,
small team.
that
We're
kind
a
of
very
any-
small team. You know.
Yeah.
If Home can
And
bring
Rog-
that in with a bit of skill, well, we've won a
Yeah.
watch with that.
And they were out muscle in the first 20 minutes, Mark, big time.
Mhm.
In the midfield, they were losing every 50-50 ball and every challenge. But again, Turnbull, McGregor, and O'Reilly, who was exceptional again today, they're all quite similar players. Whereas I think you're saying about Hatate going, it could very well be that Holm is his replacement, and they go, right, Callum, you go up the next spot. He can sit, he can sit in the 6th role. You go back up into the 8th role.
I'd like to see Plum in Callum McGregor's role. I'd like to see him there.
But that's his role. It's not Callum McGregor's role. He's not one of them. He's not a CDM like.
Yeah, I'd like to see him there because you start there today when Callum Mack pick up that booking. If he didn't take down that player, he was beaten. You know.
Yeah. I just think he's a very, very good. Technically looks very, very solid. He looks a lot older, as I said, maturity wise than 20. His first touch, more times than not, is always into space. And he's one of those guys when you seem to know a good player, he seems to have loads of time in the ball. He doesn't ever seem to be rushed. He just seems to have plenty of time in the ball, and he always looks to go forward with the pass, directly forward. And I like him.
Terence, he's not afraid to run with the ball either.
No, he's only 20, Paul. He's fit as a fiddle.
Yeah. We always had there we were talking about the Scandinavian League there, Mark, a while ago, but Celtic always had good business in the Scandinavian leagues. We always bought good players from the Scandinavian league. And here's a player now who, for me, could be a very, very important player for Celtic in the future. Not the future, going forward.
Home.
Yeah.
Aye, definitely. People, I don't. If Hattati leaves, I would be more than comfortable. At home, I really would.
Oh, McGregor and O'Reilly. I think that's strong enough. A good physique, because O'Reilly's not shy to play an attack either.
No,
I think that's a good physical midfielder.
O'Reilly looks quality.
I don't know if you listened back to other podcast, Paul, but me and Terence were talking about it, and do you think O'Reilly maybe seen a wee bit of a problem with Anger? He wasn't quite comfortable with, and last week, see when he came out, right, I know we all know how you feel about Turnbull, but
but I saw it, Mark,
that was a bit,
do you know what? Do you know, it remind me of, Mark, something that we've been saying in the podcast for a long, long time, that Ange has the favourites in the team. And no matter how bad they played or what they did in training, they always started. And that's the impression I actually got off O'Reilly, what he was saying, that Ange had his favourites in the team. That's the
his touch, O'Reilly's touch in the two games that have been this season have been just. He's been out of this world in the two games he's played. He's been the standout midfielder for me. He's been exceptional in the two games. And he scored 2 goals. He probably, I don't think he did even score. He probably scored 1 goal last season at the end of it.
I think we're going to see the best of O'Reilly under Brendan Rodgers.
He's been very good now, in fairness.
And I think in time, and that's what I said at the start of the podcast, Terence, like that. The overreaction by Celtic fans, like we won 3-1 today. We didn't play well. We still won 3-1. We created 16 chances, right? We 10 shots on target.
Saw that,
Ange, we could have 20, 30 shots on goal. We might only have 5 on target. So the progress is there. Do you get me? The progress
but
more shots on target than we actually have been.
But as well too, Paul, Rodgers was always going to be under a bit of pressure, because for argument's sake, if he's trying to stamp his way of playing and his formation of playing and the whole lot, he knows he's after coming into a side that's won the treble and is playing your inverted fullbacks and playing a specific way. For him to automatically change that straight away, people will be going, "You're mad." And I think he kind of half hinted at that himself once or twice, that he's kind of wary of that as well.
I don't know.
That might come in time.
Did any of you notice that today from Kilmarnock to Taylor, telling Taylor to come out of the midfield and go off to the wing? Any of you noticed that today in the game? A few times Kilmarnock had to tell Taylor, come out of the inverted full back role and go off to the wings. Any of you noticed that today?
No, I didn't know, to be honest.
No.
Saw that a few times now. Kilmarnock was telling Taylor, go off to the wings, because when Nowoski had the ball,
must have concentrated in his own fucking game, Paul, to be honest. McGregor didn't tell people what to be doing.
I know that, but that's what I'm saying, Mark, that the player, this is my point, like that the players are only getting used to the way Brendan.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? Nowoski had the ball and he was looking out to the wings to pass to Taylor, but Taylor wasn't there. Taylor was actually inside the thing, and Dyson Maeda then was up the field waiting for the pass from Taylor from the wing. Do you get me? So
Jake Taylor's maybe just struggling to get into the kind of the groove, reader. Do you know what I mean? He's needing to think about stuff
so, Mark.
and come natural
like
to him.
I said, and that's what I liked about Joe Hart's post comments today. He said, we played a unique way that was bred into us day and night in training, that we're only getting used to what Brendan Rodgers is saying. And Brendan Rodgers saying his play is similar, but there's tweaks. But these tweaks, Mark, could be very effective in the way Brendan Rodgers wants to play. Do you get?
Aye.
So
it could also be detrimental to players. That's the only thing. It could be detrimental to the players, like it could be detrimental to a player like Greg Taylor. Like the inverted fullback might have suited Greg Taylor down to the T, whereas the overlapping fullback, with the greatest respects to Greg Taylor, you would never see him as a bombing down the wing ahead of the winger and whipping the ball in, a la, say, Bernabeu or Kieran Tierney or someone like that esque. Ralston's very good at doing it, in fairness to him, getting ahead of a bad and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if Taylor the formation is now that Rodgers wants him wider and getting down the wings and stuff. That, he was very, very suited to the inverted full back. He played it very, very well. He may struggle, and this was said before. He may struggle if he is asked to get ahead of the winger, especially obviously if the winger's Maeda, you don't even bother trying to go outside him because it's a waste of time.
I think any left back will struggle to get past.
He'll be like, screw that, like, I'll let him run away. I'm not getting outside him, like.
Jesus Christ, like, but move. Sorry, then just I stopped topping up my cigarette there, though I charged in my mouth. Moving on to next week, lads. We're second round of the League Club, like, tough game really away to Kilmarnock. And you're speaking about that Astor tough next week. Are you expecting changes? Will Brendan Rodgers make changes after the 2 games? What he's seen, he's kept the same squad for the last 2 games. Are you expecting him to kind of make changes for the Kilmarnock game? Terence, I come to yourself here.
I suppose a lot of it's dependent on injury. There's no way Carter Vickers is going to be playing. That's a definite.
Yeah, definitely not. But you think though, Carter Vickers' injury today, like, was more so, Mark, as a precautionary because he was out for so long and he felt the twig in the hamstring. Do you think that?
That's what the kind of were saying when it happened, wasn't it? So I wouldn't actually say it's an injury as such. Do you know what I mean? But I don't expect him to start next week.
I won't risk him next week, though, Mark.
On
that thing, yeah,
I would expect changes, but
would you go with Welch again there, or would you throw Scales in there?
You wouldn't if everything been the same, you'd have to go with the keeper and the back four that finished the game. That'd be I'm not what I'd want, but that's what you'd have to go with. In the midfield, again, depending if Fatata is injured, and I think he probably will say he's injured, even though I don't think he's fully injured, but that's another issue. I'd be going with Holm, McGregor, O'Reilly, and then again, it's I'd probably start Yang, to be honest. Because I'm really impressed with him every time he's come on, and he looks very direct. Just change it up a bit, and depends who you want. Maybe him and Maeda and Kyogo are probably going to start up front because there isn't many other options, to be honest. But if they're if it was the case that Kyogo was injured, even though he's not, but if he was, I don't know about it. But yeah, I would say Kyogo, Maeda, and Yang, and then Holm, McGregor, O'Reilly, and then the back four that finished today and Joe Hart. That'd be the team I would go with.
I'd like to see Plum start as well next week. The reason because of that back four being together. I'd like that's the only reason I like this. One of the reasons I like to see Plum starting. A bit of cover for that back four. A
proper CDM, Paul. It's a proper CDM. Yeah. It's something that they need, especially now because they're going to be, in a sense, slightly fragile at the back. People forget to be good. Like the game finished today. 2 weeks ago, we had 2 centre backs that hadn't lost the league game, and obviously one of them is departed, and now one of them is a knock. So you're going into games now with these 2 guys gone, through injury or through obviously just moved on. So I would be the same boat as you. I would definitely like to see him start. If Tate is fit, I imagine they might start Tate. But if he surely can start Turnbull again. I hope not, anyway.
I don't know, Mark. If Rodgers is saying, Mark, he's starting players on form, on form, and that's the reason he was playing David Turnbull. Surely you can't play David Turnbull on form or watching in that performance today. And I hate seeing out David Turnbull all the time, but
it's for him. Just like what we're talking about the last kind of 45 minutes he's played, Paul, is it down to how he's doing in training? Do you know what I mean? If he's showing up in training, right? I did a hellish 45 minutes a day, but he was man of the match last week. So it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if Turnbull started, really, wouldn't he?
But consistency is what the problem, Mark, because we said it time and again. You're the 8 out of 10 and the 2 out of 10. You're going to get caught eventually if you keep going back to the same well. You're going to get caught out with a guy, because today, realistically, in the first half, Celtic had one midfielder in O'Reilly. McGregor was absolutely nowhere, and Turnbull was absolutely nowhere. The two of them had a shocker in the first half.
That was one of the worst games I actually saw Cal McGregor play today. You know, it's like the game kind of passed him by. You know, that was one of the worst performances I saw McGregor play for Celtic today. I don't know.
In a long time anyway.
Yeah.
And I know people are saying, he was covering for Turnbull and so, but nah, you can't just use
Do your own job.
Aye, that's how it terms.
Do your own job.
That's what Roy Keane said, like, you do your job. Your job in the pitch, and that's your job, and you do your job in the pitch. You know what I mean? And
because if he's covering for Turnbull, he's negating his own job. Simple as that.
Exactly.
You know, there's managers and team coaches and everything on the sideline to rectify that problem. You do what you were meant to do. That's like saying Anthony Ralston coming into centre back every time where someone's having a nightmare centre back and leaving the right wing opened. We'd give him pelters if he done it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd give him pelters if he done that. You go, what the hell was he doing? You know, if, for argument's sake, like I'm sure he got pelters for the Aberdeen goal or one of the Aberdeen breaks where they came down the field and it was played out to the right and he wasn't there. He was tucked into the middle. I'm sure he got pelters from that from the sideline. So McGregor can't be, you know, it's critiquing a guy. It's not giving him, it's not, you know, slating a guy, so to speak.
No.
But we know how good he is. But at the same time, you have to be honest in your assessment of an individual. You can't just say, you know, he's you can't really criticise him as Callum McGregor. Like, you can't really criticise Carter Vickers. Well, you can. He was terrible for the goal.
Aye. I said that today as well on the forum.
Do you think do you think though that run is where he actually felt the injury to the hamstring, Mark? That run, you know, was that too much for Carter Vickers after being out for so long? True injury, that run with the goal?
It might have been, Paul. I never even give that a thought, but that's a good point. Maybe, see, I mean, he obviously was caught and he did his full body a kind of twist.
Because I think if Starfelt wasn't away, Mark, Vickers would have got a longer rest. I say.
Oh,
you know?
Fuck off, man.
If Starfelt had done that in the match, he'd be getting absolute pelters.
Well, definitely.
Absolute pelters. If Starfelt had done that today and he was playing and that had happened to him, he would be getting murdered.
And rightly so.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying is
rightly so that Carter Vickers gets roasted for it as well, isn't it?
Oh, he should, but I'm saying there's sometimes players get a little bit more leniency towards him because of the player they are, then another player makes a similar mistake, they get hammered.
Is he actually fully fit yet? Like, because last season you wouldn't see Carter Vickers being beaten by that ball, you know what I mean?
He's not fully fit.
No, he's not,
you know what I mean? It's that kind of.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that run could have been actually too much for the Mark. You know that's.
He just misread it, Paul. He just misread the pass, like, because if you look at it, when the pass is made, it's a good pass, and you nearly think he has it, and he can go for it, and then next minute he realises your man's in behind, and he knows he can't make a challenge, because if he makes a challenge, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's a mistake. You see the thing about it, see if Carter Vickers didn't make the mistakes, he wouldn't be at Celtic too.
No, he wouldn't be. No.
Do you know what? That's one of these things I always say about players. Celtic's always going to have goalkeepers and defenders that have got a blunder in them, because if you can buy a goalkeeper or a defender that's never going to make a mistake, they're not going to sign for Celtic, and if they do, they're not going to be there that long.
Listen, there's players, Mark, playing with the best in the world. There isn't a player that hasn't made a mistake. There isn't a player that hasn't missed a. Like, that's just. There isn't a player that hasn't misplaced a pass. Hasn't misplaced a pass, a forward that hasn't missed a great open goal, missed a sitter, keeper, and a howler. You know?
I haven't.
Roy Keane.
You know. Well, Roy Keane might have made a few mistakes. Roy Keane's goal, didn't he? Or Was it
Who?
Notts Forest?
Roy Keane made a
It's Notts
mistake.
for Notts Forest and Clough hit him up
Roy Keane made a
again.
mistake,
Oh,
Mark,
James,
but
I'll be
no
getting the
one caught
fucking
it.
farrier to fight you tonight if you start up with this part.
Mark, Roy Keane made a mistake,
Yeah.
but no one caught them out in it.
What?
I said Roy Keane made a mistake, but no one probably caught them out in it.
Aye, probably just forgot about it and I raised the
Exactly. They
tapes
didn't
here.
even show the commentary didn't even show replays or nothing. You know, there was a good one there. I saw himself, Mark Mika Richards and Gary Neville in the car, and Jamie Carragher. They were traveling in Dublin, and Carragher asked him about the Haaland tackle, and he turned drunk to Neville. Yeah, but did you see the report? He goes, "What do you mean? It was you that got me the red card." And Gary goes, "What do you mean? Because you ran straight up to the referee. It's only a yellow. It's only a yellow." And Roy King said, "When the player says it's only a yellow, it's a fucking red." He blamed Gary Neville for the sending off. That's what he did. He's
But even
brilliant.
that,
Boys.
I mean, that's another thing. Perhaps they call it the Mandela effect or something they call it on the internet when people have got a kind of false perception of what actually happened. Roy Keane never ended
No, he
Haaland's
played on
career.
after that. He came back after that.
He came back. See the knee. It was the other knee. It was
Yeah,
the other
yeah,
knee that
the other
killed his
knee.
injury. And it had already had an injury on that and stuff like that. And he came back and played games. And he played for Norway when he shouldn't have as well, which aggravated and everything.
It's a great tackle, isn't it? To be fair. It was a great tackle, though.
For me, Terence, honestly, I'm no biased or anything. It was Roy Keane, peace be on him. But for me, it was a 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great tackle, though. Great tackle. I love the fact that he held the grudge for that long is fantastic. And my kind of man.
He did the same. They were playing Chelsea, and Gus Poy did a dirty challenge him at Stamford Bridge. And the next 3 weeks they were playing Chelsea in the FA Cup. And Roy Keane's first tackle of the game, the centre and first seat was fucking Gus Poy at the start of the whistle. He decked him straight at the start.
Was that aye?
And Gus Poy had to go off and everything after it. I mean, he held the grudge like that's what he did. If you injured him, you were getting that back, like, weren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what you want.
That type of player's gone, isn't it?
They're long gone.
Football, that's.
Maybe it might be at the lower levels, but not at the higher level anyway.
Mm.
You can throw Scott Brown into that kind of equation as well, can't you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like a kind of serial just a serial winner that held grudges and waited no matter how long it took to get his wee dig back and stuff like that. And it's just, for me, it's even. I mean, people were talking about it earlier on. These kind of serial winners, even be guys that the Celtic fans would didn't like, guys like Barry Ferguson.
Barry Ferguson, just going to mention him, like, yeah, he's another one.
I mean,
players, though, I was very surprised Shinnie didn't get a booking today. The amount of tackles he did today, consistent fouling. How he didn't get booked today was unbelievable.
Aye.
Shinnie.
Mm.
And then even the one that Kilmarnock get booked for, that was a bit. I mean, it was a foul. I'm not saying it wasn't a foul, but I didn't think that warranted a booking. Good
referee did a good game, though. Referee did a
good night, Bobby. Thanks very much for coming on earlier, bud.
Referee had a decent game, though, to be fair to him. I didn't think he was bad.
No, I thought he'd done all right.
He let advantage go. I was watching that now and a couple of times. There was a foul on a Celtic player, and they tried to make a pass or two, and it didn't work out, and he blew back for the free kick, and even for the goal, I was fully convinced when I heard who was doing the VAR that they were going to give it as offside. Even if it wasn't offside, they were going to show a dodgy line like they did for the Bada one. But in fairness, thank God they gave it. You know what I mean? And I thought he did a solid enough game, ref, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll see now. The next Rangers game, we turn into Willie Collum afraid to give a decision against Rangers in case he won't ref a game against them again.
You're always going to get that, Bill Paul. That's just human nature, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Back to your lineup, Mark.
I don't buy into all that rubbish, Paul. You know that all this paranoia with refs and that. I know there's certain examples you can ram down my throat and say, but what about this, what about that? But all that paranoia stuff where refs gets a bit on my wicket times, you know what I mean? I mean, you could sit there and pick through stuff today with the ref, but we won the game, and then, but he booked Kilmarnock, you should have got booked, right? Well, he gave a goal that people would tell it went to VAR, wasn't again and stuff like that. So I'm not saying all that's nonsense about it. Even
no, I talk plenty. The good game, Mark. I just think Shinnie should have been booked today.
Aye,
definitely.
I mean,
for consistent fouling.
Consistent.
But look at last week. I mean, the referee could have quite comfortably given a penalty and sent off Joe Hart.
Aye.
Quite comfortably, he could have given a penalty and sent off Joe Hart. And like, people can say what they want. Might have been very, very slight contact, but there was contact with was it the Ross County guy? Was it?
Aye.
And you know, he was around Joe Hart, and okay, he probably tried to keep his feet for too long. But
do you know why they didn't give that? I think it's the way the Ross County player went down.
That's what Terence had just said there, Paul.
Yeah.
He kept his feet too long. See if he'd went down, if he'd went down right away, that was a stone wall given.
When he lost the ball, he went down. Like, didn't he? He lost the ball. He went down. Like.
If you looked at Kevin Clancy today when there was a foul and he let play go on for one or two stages, and when there was no advantage, he brought it back for the free kick. No problem doing that. He could have. The referee last week could have knocked Joe Hart. He might have been seen. Can the player get to the ball? He can't. He's gone down. That's a penalty. That's a red card. And you don't know
today again, though, didn't he? Like that's very concerning. You know, really is. He made a similar mistake, and he was very, very lucky. It was ruled offside. You know, very lucky. You know.
Well, he did go to. Can one of you answer me a question, or either you answer me a question? Why did they go to the Aberdeen player's knee and not his foot on the VAR? I don't know, unless someone can answer that question for me. They drew a line across, but they drew a line to the Aberdeen players. They came across to the Aberdeen player's knee, not his foot. Why was that? Does anyone know?
Was his knee further forward there?
No, his foot was further forward. I don't know why, because they came across from his knee then to where Abada was. Unless they were doing it from where Abada's foot was and it happened to come to man's knee.
They do it from where the forward is standing.
Okay.
Then turns to the defender. That's where they
okay,
go.
Well, that's fair enough because in the on the Joe Hart one, obviously for the foul or because normally they always show the last person and they do a line from them and then they do it across if you're an attacking forward. Whereas I found it very unusual that they drew it from Abada to him. You'd assume that they draw it from the defender, where the defender is the last part of the defender, his foot, so to speak, and draw the line across, and it's easier then to see he's onside, he's offside. I didn't understand it. I found it a very strange way because his foot and everything is whatever, a couple of inches behind him or in front of him, and he's still onside. That's obviously playing onside. But the way they're doing it is like from his knee. Obviously, it must be what you're saying, Paul. It must be from Abada's foot, and they're going across that way. But I hadn't seen it done before like that. That's why I'm just curious to see it done like.
That no change? Is that no change for this season?
I don't know, Mark. I haven't a clue now.
I think it's given the benefit of doubt. No, Mark. Like if your hand is offside, is that not ruled onside? No, isn't it?
I think last season it was. If it's so, like last season, if it's what you're saying, Paul, if it was like,
and it has to be by the foot. No.
Or some part of the body is allowed to.
They can score.
Or so, something like that.
Yeah. No, I didn't know. I just found it. I found it strange when they'd done it like that. Like
they change all these rules so much and see at a certain degree, you've got to understand why referees are maybe struggling with stuff.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, every
summer what was onside yesterday, Mark, is
offside. There's been a bit. Every summer there seems to be this new bombardment of new rules and stuff, and dealing with VAR and all this kind of palaver.
What do you think of this time wasting rule? It'll be added on at the end of the game. I thought there would be more than 4 minutes added on today.
But doesn't. No, but they're not using that in Scotland, are they?
No, they're
not.
No, they're just trying. They're just trying that on.
I think it's good because I watched a bit of the Charity Shield? Is that what they call it? I don't know if they call it a Community Shield, whatever. Yes. And I like that because today I didn't know it was in Scotland or not, but one stage there was a free kick against Shinnie and he kicked the ball away. He probably only kicked it 10 yards away. but there was no card. But I watched in that Charity Shield thing, once or twice a player kicked the ball away, obviously after giving away, and every time the referee handed a card, every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, again, with the greatest respect, it probably typifies Scotland that they don't. Why didn't you just follow suit? It's a no-brainer. Like if a player,
it needs to be tilt turns to do this.
Or,
it needs to be UEFA, FIFA that tell them we're bringing this rule in as a blanket rule. They're only trialing it so far, meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I thought it. I said the few minutes I watched that league game or that thing, I thought it was very good, because even it was that Community Shield thing, guys kicking away the ball or a fella pulling the jersey, there was no warning. It was just a straight yellow. And it's as someone said, you're going to see an awful lot of red cards this year in the Premier League with that system, because a fella could be on a yellow and make a foul and not realise he can kick it 10 yards and he's gone.
I celebrate a goal too much and get sent off.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Can be
anyway.
You can be booked for like a first half. You get booked for a dodgy foul, fair dues, a yellow card. But then near the end of the game, you scored what you think is going to be the winning goal. And you're on.
They didn't have to stop long back at Kilmarnock, didn't it?
Aye. But I think that's more that stuff like, which isn't right. Do you know what I mean? But that things like that shouldn't be getting brought into.
No,
the game,
that's the emotion of the game, Mark. Do you know what I mean? That's the emotion of the game. Like,
the VAR there today, your first goal. I mean, everybody's just sitting there waiting, and then woohoo, yeah, we scored. Do you know what I mean? It takes away this kind of waiting about bookings for time wasting.
Takes away the buzz of the celebration.
It takes away the kind of instinct, the kind of emotion of the game for me.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get it wrong. That VAR today, it worked out well for us. I'm not complaining, but other times it doesn't work out well for us. And there's got to
still early days. We'll have to see how and in the Women's World Cup as well. I have been watching it, but I've been reading it that you can actually hear the referee explaining the VAR decision.
That was a French game terms. Did I not send you as well, Paul?
You did,
Paul?
Mark. Yes,
and you could hear the referees and what they were talking about on the VAR and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's in Poland as well, Mark. It's actually in Poland as well.
Oh, is it? I mean, I know Terence has been on about it a lot through kind of the rugby and stuff, but for me that would be ideal, Terence. A video I sent you the other day.
Yeah,
definitely.
But ruled out any ambiguity and any, questions asked to the referee or to the TMO or the VAR guy. He's asked a specific question: is it a goal? Is it not a goal? Any reason for a goal or whatever it is? And he goes, looks at it. Yeah, look at it. Just need to check this side here. Okay, look. No. There's a foul by number 5. It's a free out. Or no, it's not a handball. Ball play away. It's a goal or whatever it is. It takes 2 minutes to do in rugby at the most. Like, and with the greatest respect, in rugby, when they're looking to see if there's a try or not, there's like probably 12 fellas on top of the ball, and they can still manage to say whether it's a try or not a try. Do you know what I mean? And most of them are the size of a small house, so they should be able to do it in the football and say, like, it's either a goal, it's not a goal, it's a penalty, it isn't a penalty, onside, offside. There's no. It is a serious goal play. It's not.
And here's the reasoning behind that. I mean, that video I sent you, it was like basically it was VAR saying to the referee, look, you need to come in and look at this. It was the slightest of touches. He didn't actually pull him. It was just a kind of, he touched his jersey stuff in that. And that would revolutionise the Scottish game if he'd done something like that.
Well, he would take out the whole conspiracy, Mark. He would take out the whole conspiracy side of things, and the whole paranoia that he's always against us, that fella. Geez, he'll give us nothing. He's always against us. And the bottom line is, if you can hear it, you obviously may not hear it in the ground over the tannoy, so to speak. But if you're watching it on television and you're there and they're asking a specific question, look, you need to come and see this. I think it's a handball by green number 2, for argument's sake, whatever. And the referee comes over and he looks at it and he goes, why? I look, watch it here. See the ball bounces up. I think his hand's in an unnatural position. I think it's a handball. and the referee goes and looks at it. Yeah, I fully agree with you, and he goes and gives a penalty. You don't need to be there thinking and guessing. Then like
that was what VAR was when it first came out. To was it? I can't remember. Was it the World Cup or was it when the public started doing it? VAR was like VAR shouted at the referee and says, "Look, you need to come and look at this." They didn't tell him. They weren't telling him this is a penalty. This is this. They were just saying, "Look, you need to come and look at this," and showing them angles and saying a discussion. What do you think? Look at it. Look at it from that angle. Look at it from that angle. But it ultimately still came down to the referee's decision.
Yeah.
And that's one of the basic rules of football there.
Oh yeah, but 9 times out of 10, Mark, anyway, if for argument's sake the ball's in the box and it's flying around the box and it goes flying out and all of a sudden the VAR guy going to the referee, look, there's been something there, you need to have quick and come and have a look at this. The referee's going to know, okay, this is a potential penalty. This is a possible penalty. If there's a big something like that, you know, it's a very easy solve. Sometimes they just make things complicated, I think, for the sake of making it complicated. Just discussing it between the two guys and going, look, you need to come and see this. I think there's a potential handball or whatever it is, or potential foul play. The referee comes over, has a look, and he can chat to the VAR guy and go, look, this is the angle I have another angle here for you. There you go. The VAR guy, I don't know what way they go. If they say, look, I think it's a potential penalty, you need to make a decision on this, and the referee looks at it and goes, yeah, I agree with you, it's a penalty. So it's not that hard, like.
No. And if VAR started even raising its heating football, and that, one of the things as well I've always said is that it's even with like kind of on the edge decisions, a referee for me should look at it, like sit there and watch it on the screen and see even if it should be a penalty. See if the referee said, look, if I was staring right at that in real time, I wouldn't know that was a penalty. It shouldn't be given. Do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do, but I wouldn't agree with you. I agree, but I don't agree with it.
A tackle looks worse in slow motion than it does in...
Aye, stuff like that, aye.
Yeah, you know, that's another thing that kind of gets me, like...
And one of the things as well, when you're saying like that, Terence, you're saying you disagree with me, but the difference is the rules of football is meant to be universal. They don't change whether you're playing down the park or whether you're playing in the Champions League final. So, if there's an incident in some playoff or a cup final that VAR's not introduced, and
I get that because it's not a club rugby here. Like say, the club I would be Young Munsters. It's not a normal club rugby, or Paul would know from Cork Connor Sunday as well in Cork. It's not in club rugby. I understand, but what I'm saying is if a referee, in his opinion, says I didn't think it was a penalty, and then he goes and looks at the monitor and he sees there is a slight touch, or there is a slight pull of the jersey, there is a foul, so to speak, and he said, God, even with my naked eye, if I was running looking at that, I wouldn't have given that as a penalty. The reason the technology is there is to say to him, look, we're there to help. The technology has a foul, there's a penalty. That's the reason I would say, even though he's in, God, if I was looking he's a tug of the jersey, or there is contact made in the box that he wouldn't have seen from his position or with naked eye. To me, technology there for him to help him to say that is a penalty. That's what I would say. Why I would disagree with you when I. That makes any sense.
But to the other extent, can you just say, well, just do away with actual like the referee's input then, and just everything is done to VAR, and the referee just passes on whatever the VAR decides on.
I'm not saying everything, Mark. I get your point. I'm just saying if there's a penalty, and I understand what you're saying. If the referee said, if I didn't have VAR, I wouldn't give that. Like for argument's sake, today, if there wasn't VAR, Celtic's goal would have been offside. Right? If there wasn't VAR, the linesman, in his opinion, says Abad is straight offside, and he's put up the flag, and he's got no, he's offside. He's ahead of the man, the last line of defence, so to speak. But VAR has gone and checked it, and he's gone, actually, no, do you know what? That's not offside. Abad is actually onside. It's a goal. That's all I'm saying, because if the referee is to go and they're to go, my naked eye, he's offside, then fair enough. They shouldn't bring VAR into it. But when they're going to do that today and they're showing, no, look, you got it wrong. You thought he was offside. He's actually onside. It's a goal. That's all I mean by it. Because that linesman initial instinct is, no, he's offside. He's offside. He's definitely offside. That's all I mean by it.
It's definitely something we should try to bring in.
Do you know what was scandalous as well about VAR was last season in the Scottish Cup? Some teams had VAR when they were playing, and the other teams then didn't have VAR.
Aye.
You know, it's either in it fully put in the cameras temporarily mark when the game is on, or it's not in the League Cup, is it? You know.
But even down to that, Paul, but what I keep kind of saying is the basic rules of football are the same across the world, meant to be. So it shouldn't be. See if VAR can put Celtic through. I mean, right, Celtic playing, I don't know, Stirling Albion or somebody like that. And Stirling, right, obviously the rules don't go. Stirling Albion not going to have VAR facilities, right? But there could be a contentious decision in that game, Celtic against somebody like Stirling Albion or something like that.
Exactly.
And then there could be one in the next whatever at Celtic Park, but we've got VAR, so it goes other way. It's just, there needs to be, you can understand because we're talking about millions and billions of pounds across the game in the big leagues when it comes to these kind of decisions, but there's got to be some kind of conformity.
Yeah.
The rules or the regulations that even, they've got to kind of find a balance between how VAR does work and how they can implement it to any extent in like a kind of lower levels. Is it a case of, look, the ref goes and looks at it? What I'm saying, the ref goes and looks at it and says, if I was watching that down at an Ackies and fucking Queen's Park game, I wouldn't have known that was offside. So how can I give that? Does that make sense? What I'm getting at here?
Oh, I listen. I wholeheartedly understand where you're getting at, and I fully know where you're coming from. I'm just saying that when the technology is available, and I get where your point at if it's a Sterling or Alloa or whoever it is. I'm just making up names, obviously, that they mightn't have that facility available to them. I understand that, but what I'm saying is when it's there at the higher level, and they have that facility to use it, then it has to be used. Like today, that linesman, he thought he was offside. He wasn't offside. That linesman, his referee, was involved in a match in next weekend, and I don't even know the teams in the same league, but say Falkirk and Alloa, and the same situation arises, and it's a header down, and he gives the same decision, and then for some strange reasons, someone has a video of it, and they're able to see afterwards that, oh, actually, he wasn't offside. He's actually onside. I get your point, Mark, but what I'd be saying to you is, if they're saying, well, I think he was offside now and next week, regardless, and even though if he was onside, because I have the VAR, I can see it, but to the naked eye, I would think that's offside. Like you have the technology to use it now. Otherwise they need to get rid of VAR and just have it a level playing field across, no matter what level of playing, whether it's Champions League or League of Ireland, for argument's sake, or down the lower levels. It's just unfortunate that they don't, like I said, they don't have it in club rugby over here, even in Division 1 AIL, which is my club, Young Munsters, and as I said, Paul would know, Cork Con. They don't have VAR at that. They don't have VAR at that, and that's the top flight club rugby in Ireland. But obviously they have it in the interprovincials, and they have it in the Six Nations, and they have it all there. And I get your point, but a referee has to interpret his decision is in the club game, and he might get it right and he might get it wrong. And I fully agree. Like Mark, I wouldn't be a big fan of VAR, no question about it. There's always the beauty of a referee is that it's human error. They might be right, they might be wrong, but when the technology is there to help them, they have to use it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I get that. And as I said, see last season as well, one of the things that kind of annoyed me with VAR was it was VAR that was making the decisions.
Yes. Exactly.
And it shouldn't be. That's kind of my thing, Terence.
I agree with you.
I mean, it should be right. I'm saying the referee. There should be some kind of criteria that the referee. I just use that as a kind of example. Would I've seen that with the naked eye staring at it? But ultimately, for me, the final decision, and that's another really game. The referee's
So, Mark, we
decision
saw
is final.
that clearly with Beaton when you could see his lips saying, "It's not me making the decision."
Aye, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, but
it should be. I totally agree with you, Terence. If a referee goes over there and looks at it, blah blah, aye, but it should always come down to the referee. The referee shouldn't be told. The VAR guy shouldn't actually have much opinion in my opinion, Terence. If you get what I mean. They should
I know, but
right, look at this.
in the rugby, it's his decision. It's the referee's decision in rugby. The TMO might go. He might say, the referee might say, in my opinion, it's a try. I think there's a try, and he might say to the TMO, "Is there any reason I can't award a try?" And the TMO might look at it, and he goes, "Look, I can't really see anything. Go with your on-field decision." So the referee goes, right, I feel it's a try. It's a try. I've seen situations, Mark, in the rugby where the TMO has gone, I feel it's a red card for this decision, and the referee might go talk. You can see him talking, and the referee will go, no, I don't feel it's a red card because of this. And the TMO goes, well, I think it's a red card, and the referee goes, no, I'm happy. I'm going to go with a yellow. So the referee in the rugby would no. They discuss it together.
You don't see that then in Scottish football. You don't see the referee kind of overwriting VAR. It seems to be the opposite.
No, that's what I said there, Paul.
Yeah,
it seemed to be last season. It was VAR that was actually refereeing the game.
Yeah,
but that should also come from instruction from that. The mark needs to come from the top. Instruction from the top needs to come and go. That look, Mike O'Neill, your TMO today, or VAR. Your job is, if you feel that there's an infringement, you need to say to the referee, I feel that there's an infringement. You need to look at this and make a decision. And that's the key word. You need to make the decision, not me.
Yeah.
You can discuss it with them and say, I have this angle, I have that angle, here's another angle, here's another angle. That's what you see in the rugby. They'll go, you just need to see it from this angle, have a look there. Have a look here. Yeah, look, this is the best angle we have. It appears that there's ground under the ball. He's over the line. And the referee looks at it and he goes, yeah, I agree with you. That's a try. So, like, it's the referees making the decision in the rugby. They need to go to that to say that the people in the VAR are assisting the referee. They're not refereeing the referee. If that makes any sense.
Aye, definitely. Just guiding them a bit. Saying, well, look at it for this angle and see what you think. No, I still can't see much contact. I still can't. But last year, it just seemed that VAR, it was like VAR was telling the referee what to do. And that's not going to work. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not. No.
Because then it just actually comes down to opinions of people.
Well, even today, Mark, like I said this before, what's the problem in the goal has been scored? There's a VAR check. What's the referee's name today? Was it Clancy? Is it? Is it Kevin Clancy? Yeah. What's the problem with Kevin Clancy walking over to the monitor, having his earpiece in, talking to your man in the VAR, and he comes up and he shows the line down the middle or line, and he goes, he sees himself, yeah, that's clearly onside. Instead, the referee's standing there waiting for your man to go, that's a goal. The referee has looked at nothing today. Nothing. He just stood in the middle of the pitch with his finger in his ear, going, okay, tell me if it's a goal or not a goal, will you?
That's exactly my problem, mate, there.
Yeah, so but I would say the referee should go over and look. The referee needs to look at it and go, like if he says there's a check, he needs to go over to the monitor. Like he where he was standing was pointless. What was the point in him standing there? He could have stood beside the monitor, looked at the monitor as well. The line comes up. He clearly sees the ball is onside. He's onside. That's a goal.
See, another thing, here one that gets right on my wick as well, right? See, during the game, they're on mic top, so they can hear the linesman talking to them. They can hear all the stuff going on with VAR and that. But see, when VAR's actually checked, they need to hold their ear. They need to hold their ear to make sure.
Oh, I know, yeah, the fingers in the ear, like, yeah.
Aye, hello.
Yeah, but like
fucking Max and Paddy waiting in a fight at the Phoenix Club.
Like, if you looked at it last year, and it worked out well, but it was against Celtic at the time. Cameron Vickers tackled that Devlin fella, and the referee didn't give a penalty, and it was a penalty, but then VAR called him. The ref went over to the monitor. It could have been that Nick Walsh fella. He went over to the monitor, and you see it in slow motion, and you see Carter Vickers catches your man in the box, and you know it's a penalty. But he just looks at it, sees the whole thing, looks at it, one or two angles, penalty. and he goes over and points and gives the penalty. I don't have any issue with that whatsoever, whether it's against Celtic or not. But the referees need to be instructed. If there's a decision, you're the referee, you're making the decision with the assistance of the VAR guy.
Yes,
so you need to go and look at the monitor. That's the key.
Exactly.
I mean, even that, the daytime stuff, but we're talking about that offside decision. Why could Sky no broadcast what they were talking about? Why can TV no?
There's no reason. There's no reason for it. Like, there's no reason for it. He could have just said, "Yeah, we're just having a check here now, just making sure that he's onside. There's no foul. There's no foul in the lead up to the play. No, that's okay." He heads it down.
I tell you what, right?
Somebody who actually came out and said that they can hear it when they're doing their Sky job. They can hear what the VAR and that's talking about.
I don't know.
I'm sure some. Maybe it was, I don't
Sky
know. Maybe
can
it
hear
was
it,
Chris
Mark.
Sutton. Maybe it was Chris Sutton or someone's come out and said it.
But they probably can't all the commentators.
They're actually tuned into
what I was watching. I was watching the match on the Pulsar today, right? And the Polish TV had the lines up straight away before it went to VAR. When it was questioning for, they had the lines up straight away. The Polish TV, and that's how quick it can be done.
Aye, but they might be tuned into it, Paul, and just putting up quicker than Sky, and that is then.
Exactly. Like Sky just seems to wait for the decision to be made, and then they put them up. Then, like, you know what I mean? Put the lines up and let people see from themselves.
I mean, I don't watch much of the pub leagues, you know that. But how do they deal with this?
It's quick,
I think they put up lines. I think straight up. I think I don't watch much of it now, but I think they put it up fairly quick, Mark. To be fair, now.
Quickly,
I'm not why get into the pure paranoia Celtic Rangers stuff, like people dealing Twitter and stuff.
There's
like
no
that.
way in
is
2
that what
minutes,
it's like doing in England?
It's just, I don't know, Mark. Is it just the coverage of Sky and Scottish football like that? They're not really interested, because in the Premier League they have them up practically nearly straight away. The decision before decision's even made. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I was see today's game. I was watching it on Sky, and it got to half time. The next thing, the Spurs game came on.
Yeah, that's the attitude they have to play.
I didn't know what was happening. To put it on live chat, what's happening here? I'm watching that on Sky, and it's went to the Spurs game. Such and such a channel was only showing the first half.
Yeah, you have to switch up then to Sky Football, then to watch the rest of it.
And you're like, oh my God, man, did you get what I mean? Did you even care?
No, they don't.
It's ridiculous, Mark, boy. It's ridiculous. They could have kept that game on till the end of the match finish, Mark, because Spurs and
Brentford
were on Sky Sports Premier League anyway. Do you get me?
Aye.
So they could have just let the Celtic game just play away and then switch off to the second half of the sports game. That they come first. Just before we go there, Joseph playing a post there. Hail, boys. I don't like the way we were playing. Players look unfit, slow and attacking. Hail. What's KFT? Keep the faith, is this?
Aye. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm not playing the best, but aye, there's plenty. I mean, said earlier on, there's nearly 2-3 weeks in the window left open, and then we've got time to bed in. When is it we play the game? 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 or 3 weeks, yeah.
Aye, and then start getting ready for the Champions League. I'm not panicking.
No, I wouldn't be panicking, but I'd just like to see Celtic get. Celtic had built a trend where they got the deals done quickly, as in good time.
Yeah, but then Terence, you have to look at then as well. Like Rodgers is still kind of assessing the squad. Like he doesn't know.
I know, but they need a centre back regardless, Paul.
What players he wants and what players he doesn't want. Do you know what I mean? But
I know, but they need. I'm just saying a centre back. The rest of the positions I understand, but they need a centre back.
I think
if Carter Vickers is out, and for argument's sake, if Carter Vickers is out for say 2 or 3 weeks, we just say you don't know what the extent of the injuries, and that Rocky lad plays on next weekend and rolls his ankle and he's out. So then he'd be happy to go with Welsh and Scales or Welsh or Kobayashi for a couple of weeks.
Going to be in by the end of the week. He'll be done next week. Yeah, that Rogers even said that today after his interview. Like the centre back deal is practically done and dusted. He expects him to be in next week. The reason he's playing today, I think, was kind of a goodbye match. But then that's taking a risk. Then if he gets injured and that, like, you know what I mean? You know.
And people forget as well. It was the last day of the transfer window when Carter Vickers and Jota get signed. People say, I mean, don't get us wrong. I know what you're saying, Terence. Just with Ange, the last couple of windows, it seemed to be that all the good business was done quite early. But the managers changed, so things have obviously got to change.
I think, Mark, Mark, a lot of transfer targets, Mark, could have been changed as well. Like that mightn't have suit Brendan Rodgers. Do you know? Like I said, I couldn't see Hullum in an Ange team, could you? I really couldn't, like, you know. I think
he'd have been here, Paul, even if Ange was manager. I think most of the signings that we've brought in this window so far
I don't think, Mark, he would have got game time under Ange. You know, I don't see him as a player getting game time under Ange, do you?
Well, we don't know. We've not really seen. Do you know where would you fit into an Ange team?
I don't know exactly, Mark. Do
you know what I mean? We'll never know, basically. Do you know what I mean? So it's where's he got to fit into a Brendan Rodgers team? But I mean, I said it before, even when Ange left. There'd have been a list of players that Celtic were after, and Baby Lil.
Yeah, sure. Supposedly we were tracking Filio, Mark, for the last 3 years.
Aye, we've been looking at these players. So Rodgers will have been in on the input, but for me, in my opinion, I think the majority of players we've signed this window would have signed no matter who the manager was. That's kind
like
of
there we are. Like I forgot about him actually. Like there we are saying, do we actually need a replacement for Yasser when we still have him to come back from injury? And I'm actually hearing great things about him, Tilio, that he's actually supposed to be a very good player.
Well, you know, but was the Australian Young Player of the Year?
Yes. And a lot of the Australian guys, Mark, on Twitter have been kind of raving about him, you know.
I mean, that's just, we need to kind of wait to see where we are. As I said earlier on, with Carter Vickers and Jota, we never heard of them. We didn't know how good they were going to become for us.
Like it's the silly time of the season, Mark, isn't it?
Aye, 2 years for we signed Jota on loan. I mean, let's not be kidding. He was only signed on loan.
Yeah.
And we sold for £25 million. Carter Vickers, never heard of him. Do you know what I mean? Just a name on the odd wee bit of stuff you seen on Twitter when people were talking about stuff. And that's, you've got to give them the club time for these players to get bedded in and see what they're going to do. You've got to give the players time to get bedded in and see how they're going to do. I mean, if Hattati leaves before the end of the window, how do we know that the plan was that Holm wasn't going to be Hattati's replacement in the midfield?
Exactly, Mark.
It was going to be next summer, but no, we'll need to just push him up a year. The guy's played in Norway for 4 seasons. He's only 20-year-old. Do you know what I mean? He's not a young daft boy that's hardly kicked a ball.
Yeah. You know, we let it there, lads.
Yep.
That's it for tonight, lads. Thanks, Terence, as always, for coming in. Like part of the fun, you know, Terence. I don't know why I'd be thanking you for coming in. Like, you know what I mean? But it's always nice to thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Mark will close the show.
Hey, thanks very much, Terence, for coming in. Paul, as always, for what you did. Terence is the same. Bobby, thanks for coming on. All the lads that joined you in the live chat, hope you enjoyed it. Everybody that listens in back on YouTube or whatever, on Spotify, I hope you enjoy what we're doing. If you know how, hit the like button, leave a comment in the section below if you know how to. Thanks very much. Hail, good night. And just again, Terence, hope everything goes all right for you tomorrow, mate. God bless you, bud.
Cheers. Thanks, man.
Right, good night, lads.
Bye bye.
Good night. Night.